Number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, April 27th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, 6 degrees, and here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Anyone 45 years of age and older in Ottawa's high-risk areas for COVID can now book their vaccine. The province opening up the appointments at 3 areas of the city, identified by postal code. That happened at 8 o'clock this morning. Now, those 45 and older in the following areas can book an appointment at mass vaccination sites. The postal codes K1V, K1T, and K2V. What's unclear, though, at this point, does that apply to city-designated hot zones? There are 21 neighborhoods, according to the city, that are hot. City News has reached out to Ottawa Public Health for clarification. The province has also said those who work in licensed daycare can book their vaccine. With that story, here's Laura Carney.
Starting this Thursday, they will be eligible to book an appointment through the provincial vaccine booking line phone number or directly through public health units that use their own booking system. The province says keeping childcare open is critical to the mental health and well-being of children and in supporting working parents. Education Minister Stephen Lecce saying this is why childcare workers province-wide will be eligible to book a vaccine appointment. In the coming weeks, eligibility will be expanded to childcare workers in unlicensed childcare settings across the province. I'm Laura Carney.
City News Time, 9:01, and now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
We'll have varying amounts of sun and cloud through the area today. The high about 14 degrees. Showers tonight, but not until late tonight for the most part. 7 for the low, and then tomorrow periods of rain and 15. For today, the high 14.
And right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, it's 6 degrees. India has recorded over 320,000 new cases of coronavirus today as that grim surge weighs on the country.
Although the crisis remains grave, India's sinking health system has started getting much needed support from foreign nations. A foreign ministry spokesman has tweeted photos of the first shipment of medical aid India's receiving from Britain. It includes 100 ventilators and 95 oxygen concentrators. This last period's 323,000 new infections raises India's total past 17.6 million, but ends a 5-day streak of recording the largest single-day increases in any country throughout the whole pandemic. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
City News Time, 9:02. A third person has now been charged in connection with incidents of debris placed on Highway 17. It happened between Pembroke and Renfrew. There were large rocks, vehicle rims, even water tank placed on the highway in a number of locations for months. Earlier this year, 2 people have already been charged. Now the Upper Ottawa Valley Detachment of OPP say they've nabbed a third suspect, a 22-year-old from Ottawa. Justin Christopher Lewis is facing 3 counts of mischief, endangering life. He's scheduled to appear in court next month. It was a stern warning after an MP took a screenshot of a naked Liberal MP during a virtual proceeding. Speaker Anthony Rota reminding MPs it is strictly forbidden to take a photograph of Commons proceedings. That's whether in person or virtual. He said that was an affront to the authority and dignity of the House of Commons. The Bloc Québécois MP who took the picture has apologized, while Rota says he considers this incident now closed. The Liberals are not letting the matter drop. They say if the All-Party Board of Internal Economy doesn't agree to impose sanctions, they are threatening to take the matter to police. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
When the headlines say X,
he's got the Y.
it's the Rob Snow Show on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Oh, looks like the weather's going to take a turn. Rain. But it's that time of year, late April, Ottawa Valley, the weather, that can mean anything. In 1990, April 27th, we were baking. It was 31 degrees. 31 degrees. Can you imagine? 1966, it was -8. And in 2010, we had 4 centimeters of snow. Anything can happen. Lots of rain in the forecast, but you don't have to shovel rain. Welcome to the Rob Snow Show. This is City News. It's a jam-packed day in the news game. Oh, so many stories we're going to get into this morning. The battle against COVID-19 here in Ottawa, elsewhere. That's going to be a big one for us. It's not the only story we'll be covering today, but it's a big one. Dr. Doug Manuel will be back on our program, epidemiologist, University of Ottawa, a member of Ontario's Science Advisory Table. He was on the front page of the Ottawa Citizen yesterday. We get an update on the situation here locally with COVID-19. We'll ask him about his at-home, do-it-yourself CO2 data logger. That was a family project to track the quality of the ventilation in his children's school. Hot spots, directing more vaccines to hot spots. In short, we have a lot to get into. But I think, I really want to ask him about, there's a news story this morning. Global News has this story this morning, and it's headlined, "Staying 2 meters apart does little to limit indoor spread of COVID-19. Study says. Study says. And who did the study? Researchers at MIT. MIT, yeah, the one in Cambridge, Mass. Quote, "Staying at least 2 meters apart from others while indoors has virtually no effect on the risk of exposure to COVID-19. A new study out of MIT says. It goes on, the now commonplace distancing rule matters far less than the amount of time spent inside with other people, particularly if an infected person enters the room. The amount of time depends on several factors, according to the study, including the number of people inside, what they're doing, whether they're wearing masks, and indoor ventilation." Another story, this one from Fox 2, Detroit. I don't know. I just like saying it like that. Fox 2, Detroit. It reads like this, quote, "People who maintain 6 feet of distance indoors are no more protected than if they were 60 feet apart, even when wearing a mask." It continues. "What our analysis continues to show," this is the MIT people speaking here, "what our analysis continues to show is that many spaces that have been shut down, in fact, don't need to be. Oftentimes, the space is large enough, the ventilation is good enough, the amount of time people spend together is such that those spaces can be safely operated even at full capacity. And the scientific support for reduced capacity in those spaces is really not very good." Wow. It's MIT, right? It's not Maxime Bernier. It's not the crazy guy from Lanark County, Randy, what's his name? The guy with the suspenders? What's his name again? Hillier. Yeah. Pretty big story, though, I would say. MIT, 6 feet apart, 60 feet apart, doesn't make much difference. Yeah, I would say that's a big story. Then there's also the situation here in Ontario. It's just another terrible 24-hour news cycle for Doug Ford. Really it is. His government's calling in the army, basically. That's what it's come to now in Ontario. And the thing is, this sort of help was on offer recently. Was it last week, the week before? And Premier Ford said, "No, we're not interested." Well, if you're going to send us anything, send us more vaccines. That's what we really need. We need more vaccines. If you're going to send us anything, send us more vaccine doses. And now, here, the province is probably going to have 900 ICU cases sometime today. If it hasn't already hit that level today, medical teams from the armed forces coming in to help, along with the Red Cross, specialized healthcare workers from Newfoundland and Labrador, and we thank them for answering the call. You bet we do. Goodness knows this province needs all the help it can get right now. But it does make you wonder, once more, regardless of your political stripe, what is driving the whole decision-making process for this PC government that we have in Ontario right now, that it was willing to look a gift horse in the mouth just last week and then request it this week? It's all so peculiar, odd, and strange. And politically, I mean, it's just disastrous politically. Because, the government, it just looks like it doesn't know what it's doing on any given day. And once more, taking heat over paid sick days. Yes, the government side voted against that Liberal MPP's private members bill, Mr. Coteau's bill, yesterday on paid sick days. No surprise there. There is a majority government at Queen's Park, whatever you think of it. The last thing it's going to do is pass some private members bill from a backbencher in the third party. Let Mr. Coteau do some kind of victory lap. Are you kidding me? And you may have heard Mr. Coteau on my show yesterday. I pressed him pretty hard to offer any, and I mean any details about his paid sick day program, how it would work. He didn't have any. His plan for paid sick days went like this. Abracadabra, bippity boppity boop, everybody gets 10 paid sick days. Okay, Mr. Coteau, who's going to pay? Our business is going to pay and then be reimbursed in the government? Just how is this money going to get into the bank accounts of the worker? Because it's really the worker needs to be made whole, and businesses aren't really in a position to offer this new social benefit right now. Oh, I'm not paid to come up with those details. He said, I'm just a backbench MP. Oh, okay. Well, they're kind of important details. You would think, and yet he had no answers. So yes, the government voted against that, as well it should have. Now, as well, on the paid sick day thing, there is, when 3 journalists are sharing the byline in the Globe and Mail, it's a pretty big story. I'm surprised it's kind of stuck inside the newspaper today on page A4. You get a Bob Fife story, and it's stuck on page 4, along with Bill Curry and Jeff Gray. Globe and Mail, 3 reporters on the byline. The Ford government wrote to the Trudeau government April 22nd, so some 5 days ago now, and pledged, we, the Ontario government, are willing to top up your federal sick day program, the sickness recovery benefit, and make it $1,000 a week instead of $500 a week, which everyone agrees is inadequate. And that was 5 days ago, and the Trudeau government has, done nothing. Yeah, done nothing. It hasn't even made mention that the offer was out there, and sources are telling the Globe that actually the Trudeau government isn't even interested in tailor-making sick day programs for individual provinces. So 5 days after the Ford team sent a letter to Team Trudeau, we are where we have always been. No more paid sick days in Ontario. So we have you covered on that story today, too. Airbnb, outside of the COVID news, someone from Airbnb is coming on our show today, the company, the platform, Airbnb. We're going to talk about the tough new restrictions that will soon be enforced in Ottawa, and I mean soon. And soon in Ottawa, the only Airbnb that people will be able to put on that platform is a primary residence, with very few exceptions. That's it. That is all. And really, what was a once growing business in Ottawa will be killed off by City Council. It's kind of like the end of the superhost. This end of the superhost in Ottawa. And the days of buying, say as an investment, a residential unit, a condo downtown, or a townhome in Orleans, whatever kind of residential unit it happens to be, and then listing it on that platform, using it for a short-term rental to either supplement income or, heck, make a full-time job out of it. I mean, people were making full-time jobs out of being Airbnb hosts. Those days are coming to an end in Ottawa. Too many complaints, too many noise complaints, complaints about parties, people coming and going at all hours, people not knowing who is living next door, who's living upstairs, downstairs. And there have been violent incidents as well in the city. We know this. Some councillors wrongly claim that this has contributed to the tight rental market in Ottawa. It's not true. It didn't help, okay? But Airbnb had in no way the same effect on the rental stock in Ottawa that the disastrous policy known as rent control had on the Ottawa rental market. That's for sure. And Professor Ian Lee's going to be here. We're going to talk about this and a great many other things that the government wants to regulate these days. For example, the Trudeau government is coming for YouTube. Trudeau government wants to regulate YouTube the same way it regulates the 6 o'clock news. The government wants to treat YouTube like the CBC or CTV or Global or City TV. What does that mean for someone who puts videos on YouTube? Well, the government says it's not about regulating individual Canadian YouTubers. It's not like the CRTC is going to crack down on the YouTubers. Make sure they're abiding by, things like Canadian content rules and, making sure they're telling Canadian stories and promoting Canadian stories and investing in Canadian productions. No. Not the individual YouTuber, just the people who run YouTube. We'll have to make sure they're doing all of that. It's the same government that has lately been talking about deploying a so-called internet kill switch, giving online content creators 24 hours notice. You must remove any material from the internet that the government, the Trudeau government, says is harmful. Oh, what could possibly go wrong? So yeah, get your brain in gear. 3 hours of news and opinion on the Rob Snow Show right here on City News.
An old-fashioned traditional grocery store. You're going to find a butcher, okay? You want a steak cut a certain way, you're going to get it. There's flour piled in the warehouse. There's mixers on the floor. There's flour on the floor. The bakery's rented out to Frank Nicolo. It's him and his son come in at night. They mix the dough, they roll the dough, and they bake the dough. It's not the traditional frozen and thaw and put it in the bin, okay? It's made from scratch 7 days a week. It's probably the only bakery left in Ottawa that does that. Then customer service. We're big on that. The cashiers, the deli. You're not, if you ask for something, they're not going to point, it's an aisle number 7. They're going to bring you there, okay? If you have too much groceries out, we'll take it out to your car. You know what I mean? There's nothing we don't do for our customers. And we evolved around our customers. They would come in and say, can you try getting me this? Can you get me this? So that's how we built the lineup we have now, okay? So we have a lot of unique items that someone that came over to live in Canada hasn't seen this particular product, but we sourced it and we have it for them that, like something they used to have as a kid. We have a lot of those unique items, a lot, from like all over the world. And we source it through, distributors in Montreal and Toronto that bring in the product in bulk, and we piggyback off of them. Probably the largest European deli in Ottawa. We sell lots because people buy lots. It's nothing really complicated about that. We turn over a lot of product. We package it properly. We buy, and we're always consistent. You're always going to buy, Cuddy turkey breast, Saint Daniel mortadella. You're always going to get the same brands. We don't flip back and forth to save 20 cents. It's always the same brands the last 29 years. Best sandwiches in town. It's simple. It starts off with fresh bread every day baked in the store. Anything that's left over goes to breadcrumbs. So you're getting a fresh bun every day that was baked probably 4 hours before you get here, okay? Not only baked, made, like, mix the flour, roll the dough, proof the bread, and bake the bread, okay? Then all the ingredients come right off the shelves. Your lettuce, your tomatoes, all your condiments, and they're cut up fresh in the deli. Not like the big, corporate restaurant chains that your lettuce comes in shredded in a bag. You open it up and you throw it in the bin. Takes 2 or 3 days to get here from California. How long is it in the bag? The big difference is like making a sandwich at home, and you don't have to do the work. It's really what the trick is, and using the freshest ingredients possible.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Dr. Doug Manuel, as promised, senior scientist to Ottawa Hospital Research Institute, member Ontario Science Advisory Table, is back on City News here on the Rob Snow Show. Good morning.
Good morning.
Saw you in the newspaper yesterday.
Oh, with my kids.
Right on the front page of the newspaper yesterday. Now, I have to...
They want to be in... They're social media-wise. They don't want to have to say that anywhere, so I had to do it.
About your kind of like family do-it-yourself project that I want to ask you about, but I have to ask you about the beard first. Is that a pandemic beard? Or have you always had a beard?
No.
No?
I usually like to do a lot of stuff outdoors in the winter, so I usually start growing a beard, for November. But then it's around December. I was just it is COVID beard, and it's sort of my hockey version of the COVID beard. I haven't really told a lot of this people about, but I found the death in long-term care really hard, and I kind of in my mind it's been I'm going to keep the beard until there's no deaths in Ottawa for 2 weeks.
Oh, really?
I sort of said it in my mind, but no, it just keeps on going, and the beard gets longer. So I'm going to go for it. I'm going to see if I can go for it. See if I can keep on. So it's never been anything like this. It's just I'm basically, I have Wilson volleyball on my desk with me, and I'm just the beard's getting longer, and it's a sort of a vigilant for all those deaths, and our goal instead of Stanley Cup, it's going to be no deaths.
Wow, that's a pretty powerful story, Dr. Manuel. I thank you for sharing kind of the story behind it. It wasn't what I was expecting to hear. And I hope you get to shave soon. I
know. I haven't actually started to project when that might be.
Yeah.
I'll have to do that when we talk next. I can tell you where that goal might be. I think it's going to be sort of late summer.
Yeah. But a neat story in the paper about this project, CO2 data logger. Why did you do that?
I don't know if you know the name Dave Naylor. He actually penned that first SARS report and sort of that to create a Public Health Agency of Canada.
Okay.
But he ran it when I was a really young researcher. He ran an institute, and he used to always sort of say, "Don't come to me with a problem unless you have a solution." And so I've been telling the kids, they have no idea who he is, but they say like, "Well, Dad, Dave Naylor says, don't come to me with, here's my solution to the problem." And we talk about ventilation in the school, and we've been doing a little bit of electronics just as sort of a pandemic diversion.
Right.
And so one thing led to another, and next thing you know, we're coding up a little CO2 monitor so the kids can figure out if the ventilation is good in their classroom. I got to say, it does scratch my head too. Why as parents we don't know, or teachers they don't know as well. It's pretty easy. We've talked about the science table. Should we just be recommending, a ventilation assessment? They're doing it in Quebec, and I said to the science table, actually my kids are coding one up. It's not that hard, and they all had a chuckle, and they said, you got to post that on GitHub, Doug. So that's basically what we did, and then it got picked up, and I put it out on Twitter.
I see. Okay. Yeah, very interesting. And you talk about a lot of things at the science table, and you're talking about something now called the 2 out of 3 rule. What's that?
Well, I see it coming up. I was talking to your producers about, how can we give clear guidance about when to wear masks and when to distance. And so we've been reviewing that. I think we're probably going to come out with something like a science review of outdoor spaces and risks, but the risk does go down when you're outdoor. And so we've been trying, I think everyone's been trying to be clear about, let's get outside, let's keep our social connections, but let's just do it outside. No one has been in our house. We've only had like 4 or 5 people in here other than our families the last year, and it's just been like to fix the dishwasher, and half an hour they've worn a glass. No one has been in this house without a mask for over a year. And so that's kind of the idea. Like if you're indoors, like 2 out of 3. So either you wear a mask, you're outdoors, or you're distance. And if you go for 2 out of 3 of those, and we're just kind of like, that's a rule that's been starting to talk. And is it just an easy way for people to remember? Because in this pandemic, we've had this struggle about being clear, having clear, easy recommendations, but at the same time having them sort of science-based.
Right.
So that's been a struggle for us, I think, in how to best to communicate the science. And I don't know. We'll see what happens when we review this.
Yeah. The only people that have been in my house in the last, more than a year now are tradespeople. Very quick to come in and do some work on the house, and that's it. That's it. Other than that, okay. So the 2 out of 3 rule: wear a mask, be outdoors, or distance. Yeah. Now on distance, this is a big news story that's all over the place today. Global News has a story this morning that is headlined, "Staying 2 meters apart does little to limit indoor spread of COVID-19, MIT researchers say. The amount of time depends on several factors, according to the study. The number of people inside, what they're doing, whether they're wearing masks, and indoor ventilation. Above all, our study makes clear the inadequacy of the 6-foot rule in mitigating indoor airborne disease transmission. It offers a rational, physically informed alternative for managing life in the time of COVID-19. Any thoughts on that?
I haven't read that, but this has been a dividing point a little bit divisive for scientists as well. Like whether COVID is airborne, I don't even like to use that term anymore, and then how much. Most of COVID is you will get when you're in close proximity with someone, but not all of it. And so it will. I think we've talked before, Rob, a long time ago, but I think you and I were using the term lingering.
Yeah.
That COVID can linger, and it does at least to some degree. Like how much, I think we're still debating, but it does have this sort of lingering or airborne ability. It's like sort of like here. I'm going to try this out for you and see if it works. But it's like cigarette smoke, right? I think we talked about that too. If you can smell cigarette smoke, that's a very small particle that you're actually breathing in. And so most cigarette, ashes go in your ashtray, but some of it carries on. And so I kind of think of COVID like cigarette and cigarette smoke. There's a lot that just falls right down around you, but then there is some that drifts away. The problem is with the variants, and with some people, they can really spread quite a bit. So there's no magic line, and things like airflow and ventilation and distance play into that equation.
Okay. What do you think about increasing vaccine distributions to hotspots like Peel Region, for example? The government considering something like that.
It's very clear, and there's 2 things here too. Like the Science Table just put out a report that described how you're going to have increased benefit for it. If we do this. Okay. But one thing I think is tricky for people to get their head around is that is this idea that vaccine doesn't only benefit you, but you benefit from when someone else gets vaccinated. And that report didn't even put this in. So we want to vaccinate 2 types of people. We want to vaccinate people that are at high risk for complication and death. And we want to vaccinate people who are high risk of transmission. So all the models around the world suggest that you go for your high risk of complication, and then at some point you want to transition to the people that transmit. Those are the younger people. And that would be people that are in contact with a lot of others, like grocery store workers and essential workers. And if we can get those people vaccinated, we're protected. So there's a certain point where you kind of have to say, like, okay, to protect myself, I have to I don't have to, chase around town to find a pharmacy that has it. I just have to make sure public health can go out and find the people that are higher risk than myself. So it's a little bit counterintuitive, but we've seen this. I've done a lot of vaccine work over the years. Like we evaluated the universal vaccination program in Ontario. When we did that, the only other program which is universal was in Japan, and they vaccinated just school-age kids. And doing that, they saw a reduction in mortality, and you can guess, but in older people. So because the kids transmit, it protects the older people.
Right.
So that's part of the thinking. Like, let's get these hotspot communities. They're higher risk already for developing COVID. But if we can go in and just vaccinate an entire family, vaccinate the older people that are in these high incidence communities with older people, those people are extremely high risk. But at the same time, just vaccinate the whole family, because in those communities we have a lot of essential workers and others that are that can benefit from vaccination as well.
Thank you, Dr. Manuel. Always great to hear your voice on our program, sir.
My pleasure.
Thanks again. Dr. Doug Manuel on the Rob Snow Show. Once again, senior scientist, Ottawa Hospital Research Institute, and a member of Ontario Science Advisory Table. Professor Ian Lee from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. Coming up right after the news on City News.
One for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, April 27th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 7 degrees. In Smiths Falls, it's 8. Here's what's making news this hour. From 50 down to 45 now. People who live in provincially designated COVID hotspots who are at least 45 years of age or older can sign up for their COVID vaccine at the provincial portal. We've reached out to Ottawa Public Health now to see if people in the public health designated hotspots also qualify. The province has also announced those who work in licensed daycare can book their COVID-19 vaccines starting on Thursday. Federal Infrastructure Minister dropping some cash on the city this morning. Catherine McKenna says $3.5 million will go to several projects, including Bronson Centre and Carleton Community Centre. Will also provide cash to upgrade 29 playgrounds across Ottawa. Some provincial cash announced at the same time will go to Centennial Park in Manotick. Ottawa Police Service raising awareness on elder abuse. They say seniors continue to be at risk of ongoing isolation during COVID-19. The Elder Abuse Unit is encouraging everyone to maintain communication with older family members. This could come in the form of a wellness check or a simple conversation. City News Time, 9:34. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Firm.
Fair.
Fun.
The Rob Snow Show returns
On Rogers TV and City News. 101.1 FM.
and 1310 AM.
Welcoming back to the Rob Snow Show, Professor Ian Lee from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob.
The audience wants to know, has Ian Lee had his first dose of vaccine?
I did. I went
that's good
last
news.
Tuesday or Wednesday, and I received the Moderna shot. I'm ecstatic, I assure you. Full disclosure, I've had every possible vaccination that exists to my knowledge in Canada. Polio shots, booster shots, Japanese encephalitis shots for when I went to developing countries in Asia, shingle shots, both the earlier weaker one, the old later stronger one, pneumonia shots. So I am a vaccine, the opposite of a vaccine denier, whatever that is. I'm a bring it on, and the moment they have one for Alzheimer's and cancer and heart, I'll be lined up at the front of the line, elbowing people aside.
Good.
So
I'm
I
glad
believe in
it went
vaccines.
well. It went well. Was it at like a community clinic
It was
or
at the City of Ottawa.
City of Ottawa?
I will be a little bit
Yep.
critical, and people won't like this, but I'm a numbers guy, right? And
Yes,
I
you
count
are.
all the time. I like
know.
to count on Sesame Street. I love to count. So I'm sitting there waiting for 15 minutes. I got there 5 minutes early, and I had to wait half an hour, and that's fine. I'm not complaining about that,
Well, you waited this long. You waited more than a year. So right now.
But here's where I'm going with this.
Okay.
I counted there were, I believe, 12 stations with numbers where someone was doing the needle. A nurse's assistant or a nurse was doing the needle. Fine and dandy. I counted 3 or 4 times as many people walking around engaging in what I continue to call kabuki theater. For those, and there will be people very angry at me, except that the Center for Disease Control, is calling it hygiene theater. That's where someone sits in a chair and someone, the moment you stand up, they wipe it down, they wipe down the legs, they wipe down the back.
Yeah. Okay.
No, people. That's kabuki theater. The Center for Disease Control says your chances of getting it from doorknobs and toilets and floors and walls and chairs is essentially zero. Your risk of getting it is from human beings. The coronavirus is not, as I said a year ago, in the tulips. Remember when the NCC tried to shut us down and stop us from going to the Tulip Festival at Dow's Lake? Presumably because the coronavirus was hiding in the tulip and it was going to jump out into my nostril and kill me dead, and I was going to fall flat on the tulips. No, no, no. It is from us, human beings. We carry the coronavirus. That's why I want to stay away from people as much as I can, and I do. I'm very successful. Yeah. Okay, because I know people carry it. Not blackboards, not blackboard brushes, not floors, not doorknobs.
And you're fun to be around. That's the thing,
Well, so my point is, and I realize why we've been so behind. Okay, I've had flu shots over the years from Shoppers Drug Mart, and I walk in, I sit down, and boom, I'm out in like 60 seconds, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. Boom, boom. I've had shots at my doctor, who runs a travel clinic for when I go abroad. Boom, boom, boom. And here, the bureaucracy they created, and I know they're saying, well, we're doing this to save you and protect you. Well, I don't believe that it is protecting me. So I had to go through, I had to answer the identical set of questions 3 separate times. Have you been sick? Have you been out of the country? I understand wanting to ask these questions, but nobody did a temperature check. Nobody said, look, we're going to test you, and you sit over there for 15 minutes. We'll do the 15-minute test. That's a real test. That's a real due diligence check. If you just simply ask me these questions, if I'm going to lie, I'm going to lie. And what I'm saying is there's no check on it, so it's a meaningless protocol. It doesn't mean anything because I can lie through my teeth and say, oh, yeah, I haven't been out of the country and I've been out 5 times. Or I've got coronavirus, but I'm not telling you. You see what I'm saying? I mean, if you have meaningful checks and balances, that's okay. That's good. That's legitimate. But this is kabuki theater. And then it took an hour. I want to be careful. I got there at 22. I got my shot at 3:20. So it took about 40 minutes. I'm not complaining about that. The nurse's aide was extremely competent and professional. It's just that I saw these wasted resources walking around, wiping things down and asking questions.
Okay.
Instead, I wanted them all to be there giving needles.
Sure. Okay.
By the way, there were 15 of us sitting down in chairs, socially distanced. So there were, by my count, there were 5 times as many people there doing the kabuki theater as there were patients waiting to be vaccinated.
Let's move along. Our time is limited. So when do you get your next shot?
I'm scheduled for August, and I hope it's faster next time. Not for me, but because the more people that get vaccinated, the quicker we're going to approach herd immunity. So it's not about me. It's about getting everybody vaccinated.
It's about, and get the economy rolling again, right?
Exactly.
So, let's go. The Trudeau government, under its Bill C-10, is moving to regulate YouTube, other online content, TikTok, through the CRTC, basically treating YouTube as though it's a traditional broadcaster.
Yeah,
like television or radio.
Much worse than that. And I urge everybody to read Professor Michael Geist at University of Ottawa, who, by the way, is by no means a conservative. If I had to peg him, he's neutral. He's not partisan, but I think he's probably a small liberal. And he's the leading authority in Canada on internet regulation, on digital strategies, intellectual property, that sort of thing. Everyone should go to his website and read it. It's scary. The op-ed that he wrote there on his website, dated 10 days ago, why the Liberals have become the most anti-internet government in Canadian history. I wouldn't call it anti-internet. I think what they're doing is basically modeling, it's the Chinese strategy. He's calling it the Great Canadian Internet Firewall. Net neutrality is out. Mandated internet blocking is in. This is exactly what the Chinese are doing. Okay, innovation and new business models are out. CRTC regulation is in, and privacy reform is out. Internet taxation is in. I mean, they're setting up a system, a model that is very similar to the Chinese. That is to say, we're creating a wall around Canada, a digital wall, and they will be able to, if this bill is passed, to order that some posting that's been uploaded to, for example, YouTube, can be removed within 24 hours or subject to huge fines. And I don't think that there's any doubt in my mind that this is, by the way, there's no other democracy that has done this. The U.S. is not doing this. Germany's not doing this. Sweden is not doing this. UK, France, no other Western country is doing this. And so because I'm a cynical person, I am cynical about this, about politicians of all parties, I think they're doing this. It's going to give them the authority to ensure that those posts or videos that are critical of the Liberals will ultimately be taken down one day, not tomorrow morning. But there's no need for this model unless you're trying to reduce political criticism, which is exactly why the Chinese have done it. Because they have censorship in their country and they do not want the government, the Politburo and the Communist Party of China to be criticized. And this is, and for those who say, oh, this is way too extreme, Ian, please go read Michael Geist's. It's only about 700-800 pages, 700-800 words, and he goes on and goes through the things that are being proposed. And in fact, Guilbeault, the minister, who's a scary, scary person, by the way, he actually used the word, in a speech last week, he spoke, quote, of the evil associated with web behemoths. He's talking about Facebook and Google.
Yeah.
And so he's saying that this is, they want the right at law to then restrict and to remove anything that is, quote, objectionable.
Right. Or harmful. Or harmful. Yeah.
And so I urge people to go read this. His forthcoming bill, I'm reading Michael Geist straight out of this, his op-ed, will mandate content removals within 24 hours with significant penalties for failure to do so.
Yeah.
And then,
internet, I call it the internet kill switch. Switch.
It goes on. There's no other OECD country doing this. The only country doing this, in the major country, I'm not talking minor countries, is China. And they're doing things very similar, not identical, but very similar. And I just think that Guilbeault is a very, very scary person. At the end, he even says, where is the International Trade Minister, Mary Ng, on tax and digital policies that are going to result in tariff retaliation, probably from the Americans under the new NAFTA? Where is Justice Minister Labonte on the constitutionality? Because I think this is probably unconstitutional. Where's the Digital Government Minister, Joyce Murray, where her cabinet colleague says AI is one of our greatest threats? I mean, it's, you know, you go through and all of the impact this is going to have. It's not just on just one little website. It's going to have huge consequences for Canadians. It's going to cause, I think, blowback from our allies. It's going to cause retaliation. But the larger question is their mentality of this government, that they see the internet as a threat. Yeah. They see Canadians who post things to the internet as a threat. Yeah. This is what's so frightening.
Well, plus, there's a certain amount of hubris involved as well. Is there not, Professor, that, we know what's right and we know what should be on the internet, and we will determine what you should see and what you shouldn't see.
Well, this is the very essence and the very core of literally 500 years of constitutional democracy.
Sure. Yeah.
We've long believed that no one person has. We got rid of the divine right of kings, who said, "I know more than all of you because I'm the divine king. My power and insight and intelligence comes from God." And we threw that idea out the window literally 300 or 400 years ago. The idea that there are some people that are blessed with superior moral or intellectual analytical insight to everybody else. And that's why the whole idea of freedom of speech is that nobody possesses the capacity to determine. They can say, I don't like it, I find it offensive, but we don't give them the authority to remove it or censor it. What they're proposing is the tools to give the government to censor and remove from consumption on the net things, postings, videos that they find objectionable or, in their words, harmful. But of course, who determines the harm? Why, they do. Okay. The government of the day. Yeah. And this is why this is such a remarkably scary bill. And I hope everybody reads Michael Geist's column. And I'm just astonished. If Harper had proposed 1/10 of what they were doing here, pitchforks would have been out across the country. He was trying to turn the country into a fascist, communist dictatorship. And so far, it's been very muted. And I'm just shocked that people are saying this is okay, that they can start.
Well, I don't think there's a lot of awareness about it just now. I think that will change. Well, that's part of it too. All of this is happening while attention is elsewhere. So we're going to talk about another issue. We'll have to stop here. I do want to get your take as someone who I know has stayed in Airbnbs all over the place about what City Hall is planning to do with Airbnb here in Ottawa. When we come back with Professor Ian Lee, Sprott School of Business at Carleton. This is City News.
I started, as I said, at Lester's Barber Shop, and it was kind of, it was one of those things that it was just an opportune time for me to get into it, just because he had decided that he was going to retire after the fire, and then the opportunity presented itself that I could open my own shop. And so I went from a 150 square foot space on St. Patrick's Street to a 600 square foot space just on Beechwood to now here, and I'm in a 1,400 square foot space now. And I don't know, it's been an interesting journey because, you think that you're just going to be just you or a really small space, and then all of a sudden, you've got 10 other people working for you. You're in a much bigger space, and even incorporating the boutique. Last March, when all of this started, we closed down a little bit earlier than everybody else, and I'm going to say, being honest, part of it was social pressure. We shut down before everybody else did, and I'm watching all these other salons, just be really responsible and saying we don't want to be a part of the process. So we got ahead of it and closed, and then, the week later, the government's like, everybody's shutting down. And so it was a little nerve-wracking. I guess the first step of us, trying to innovate and just keep moving forward was when the salon is closed, right? It's like, what do you do? Our whole industry is based on being with people, cutting their hair, providing a service. You have to be people together to do that. You can't do that remotely at all. So one of the first things that I saw in our industry, what people were trying to do is they were selling their hair products that they had. And luckily, I've had a website that always had a web store in the back. I just never used it. So as soon as I saw that people were doing that, I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to load up all my stuff. And so that worked out really, really well. And then from there, I managed to find a place that was like a wholesale website that allowed you to have net 60 days. So you don't have to, you can order all the stuff. You don't have to prepay any of it. There's free returns, all that. So that made it really easy for me to bring in other products and start trying to sell it. And so I went from selling hair products to shave products to bath and body products to a little bit of clothing and jewelry, and now it's just morphed into this whole, like, I want to make it a whole legit boutique. And by December of last year, I decided that this is a full-fledged thing and we're going to separate it. It's its own company. So it's really finding an opportunity that's there and running with it. So it's been really fun. Our clients are loving it. Our clients that have been here for a long time, they love it.
Pillar of community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
On Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
And 1310 AM.
We're back with Professor Ian Lee from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University, and you have used Airbnb in the past. You have, yes, Professor?
To book a unit in Florida in December.
Oh, you did?
And
Okay.
I've used it around the world. I've used it in Poland many times. I've used it in UK. I've used it in France. I've used it in the States. I do not consult to them. I don't have any shares in them. I've used it many times over the last since they came into the world, and their cousin VRBO. And I find them very professional. I like going through Airbnb and VRBO because they provide security to me. That is to say that if the homeowner in question is going to take me to the cleaners or skip out or not provide the unit, they back me up. They give me recourse and they protect me. I treat them in my head as an insurance company. They protect me against getting ripped off. For those counselors who want to tell me what to do with my holidays and say, well, then go to a hotel, I don't like to go to hotels because first off, they're very expensive generally, and secondly, they don't have a kitchen. And I don't like to eat out at a kitchen 3 times a day. I mean, in a restaurant 3 times a day, 7 days a week while traveling, because A, I'm a poor professor and I can't afford that like wealthy, privileged progressives can. I can't. And secondly, it makes me fat because rich restaurant food is very rich. It's very heavy. And so I prefer to rent a condo, an apartment that has a full kitchen. So go to the grocery store in the local city in Tampa or in Warsaw or whatever. And so that's
and make your own meals and eat whatever you want to eat. Yeah,
now,
sure. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and now
yeah.
to the point, people say, well, what are you getting excited about, Ian? You don't rent Airbnb in Ottawa. And that's absolutely true. I don't.
Right.
And by the way, I do not rent my own house, so anybody who wants to accuse me of a conflict of interest, I've never rented my own house, and I have no vacation.
Right. But it's this whole idea that the only unit that will be able to be listed in Ottawa on the Airbnb platform will be someone's primary residence. So this idea that I have an investment property that would be rented as a short-term rental would be prohibited in Ottawa. What do you think about that?
Right. That's where I'm going. I want everyone out there in Radioland to understand this is going to hurt you, not me, you.
Okay.
Why? Because if you have friends, family, relatives, acquaintances across Canada, and they want to meet you, join you, and visit you post-COVID in Ottawa, and you say, gee whiz, my place is too small, or I like my privacy, and they or my guests coming to Ottawa like their privacy and don't want to share and live in my house. It's awkward. It's uncomfortable. What the counselors are trying to do is stop you, your friends, your family, your relatives from being able to access reasonably priced, modestly priced private accommodation, living in a home. And to their point, and I did some research on this morning, because as soon as I read this, I knew that there was something going on here that was, I'll be very blunt, corrupt and dishonest. Because they said, we're doing this because of the housing shortage in Ottawa. So I immediately, as I always do, I go look up numbers. I went to the city of Ottawa, to their statistics and demographic department. There's 434,000 households in the city of Ottawa. That's almost 500,000 households. There's 1 million people, 434,000 households. Every one of those are an apartment or a house or a row house or a townhouse. Okay, but those are units that are part of the market. Some of them are rentals, yes. Some of them are home-owned, owned by the homeowner. Okay, but that gives you an idea of the size. So then the next thing I said is, okay, are there hundreds of thousands or multiple, many, many thousands of Airbnbs that are, causing this housing shortage? So I went on Airbnb this morning. And I said, okay, let's choose the middle of July, high season. Ottawa, it's a city where you like to visit in the summer, not the winter. So that's high season. So I selected mid-July. I figured that's as high as they could go.
Right.
To get the maximum number.
Okay. Well,
in July of 2021, coming up, there are just over 300 rentals out of 434,000 households.
Right.
The councillors are misleading and deceiving people in Ottawa when they tell you they're doing this to prevent or to alleviate the housing shortage. They are being, let me be more blunt, they are being dishonest with us. 300 rental units in a city of 430,000 homes. This is not even the equivalent of finding a penny on the sidewalk. This is not a ripple in Dow's Lake. This is, you can't see it. You can't measure it.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So this is being driven, I think, now I'm getting speculative on my part,
yeah.
I think it's being driven by two. There's ideology amongst the councillors. They hate these companies for reasons I don't understand because they're providing an excellent service to ordinary people that can't afford to live in expensive hotels when they travel. And then secondly, I think that they are increasingly realizing that with that policy they passed limiting the urban boundary and limiting the housing stock, more and more people are attacking and saying there's a shortage of housing. Chrystia Freeland, front page of the Globe and Mail, a super progressive liberal, said in the front page on the top of the fold, we have a supply shortage problem. We don't
need
have
to build more need to build more houses. She said.
I think that they're trying to do this is a bait and switch, not bait and switch, but they're trying to change the topic away, get the spotlight away from themselves for that immoral policy that restricted the housing very significantly, drove up the values of the houses of the most privileged people in the wealthiest postal codes. I'm referring to the Glebe. I'm referring to Westboro. I'm referring to Sandy Hill. I'm referring to Old Ottawa South. I'm referring to Alta Vista. These are the high income. If you look at the stats from StatsCan, these are the most high income people in Ottawa, and they're the wealthiest postal codes with the highest property values that have gone up the most. That's why I said it's an immoral policy. And who does it fall on? The pain or the suffering falls on young people and immigrants disproportionately because they want to go to the burbs to buy a new house because it's affordable. And so these policies are very expressly discriminating against these young people who don't have a lot of power or influence and against immigrants. And
money.
Remember, 70% of our immigrants are not Caucasian. They're minorities, people of different races and colors.
Gotcha.
And so my point is, it is just shameful. I mean, just absolutely shameful that this is going forward. And it's being
going forward. It's going to sail. It's going to sail through City Council tomorrow. You wait for it. Okay.
Of course it will.
Yeah. Okay. We're out of time. Very passionate opinions this week. Thank you very much. As always, we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Professor Ian Lee from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. The Talkback Hour is coming up next with a lot of things in the mix. This is City News.
news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, April 27th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 7 degrees. In Smiths Falls, it's 8. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Province has lowered the age now for those in hot zones in the province to get a COVID vaccine. If you're 45 and older in a provincially designated hotspot, you qualify to book your vaccine appointment. It started at 8 o'clock this morning. Now, it means 3 large areas of the city by postal code, but the Public Health Department hotspot designation takes in a much larger area, 21 neighborhoods altogether. We've asked OPH for clarification whether their hot zones are included in this. Also, the province announcing another group of frontline workers can book their vaccines starting on Thursday. Here's City News reporter Laura Carney.
Huge news for childcare workers starting this Thursday. Those in licensed childcare settings will be eligible to book an appointment by calling the provincial vaccine booking number or again directly through public health units. In the coming weeks, eligibility will be expanded to childcare workers across the province in unlicensed childcare settings. The province saying keeping childcare open is critical to the mental health and well-being of children and in supporting working parents. I'm Laura Carney.
Now, those 3 designated provincial areas in Ottawa are the postal codes K1V, K1T, and K2V. City News time 10:02. Now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
We'll have varying amounts of sun and cloud through the area today. The high about 14 degrees. Showers tonight, but not until late tonight for the most part. 7 for the low. And then tomorrow, periods of rain and 15. For today, the high 14.
And right now in Ottawa, it's 7 degrees. And in Smiths Falls, it's 8. Provincial numbers of COVID-19 infections for the day just coming in now. 3,265 is the provincial number. Of that, 150 of the cases are in Ottawa. There are 2 in Leeds, Grenville, Lanark, 4 in Renfrew, and 3 additional cases in Eastern Ontario's health unit. All 4 of those health units, Ottawa, Leeds, Renfrew, and Eastern Ontario, showing a dramatic drop today in the number of cases. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, several cabinet ministers, and Canada's top public health officials deliver a pandemic update today. As of this morning, the provinces and territories have administered more than 12.3 million doses of vaccine. But so far, just 2.7% of the population is fully vaccinated. India reporting more than 323,000 new COVID-19 infections, a grim surge of illness and death weighing on that country, its sinking health system receiving support now from foreign nations. In the past 24 hours, 2,771 people have died from the virus in India. Dr. Lance Pinto is a respirologist at Mumbai Hospital, and he is calling for help.
I think what we need could be split into what we need immediately, and clearly what we need immediately is escalation in oxygen supplies, escalation in ventilators, bed availability to patients who desperately need it. And I think a lot has been done. I think there's a lot of aid coming in from countries across the world where we have oxygen tanks which are being sent to us.
The first shipment of medical aid has arrived from Britain, including 100 ventilators and 95 oxygen concentrators. Our federal government hasn't yet provided specifics about aid, although the offer has certainly been made. 3 teams of Canadian Armed Forces nurses and medical technicians being deployed in Ontario to help the exhausted frontline healthcare workers. A military aircraft left Newfoundland this morning. That aircraft carrying 9 doctors and nurses who will go right to work on COVID-19 patients in Toronto. The federal infrastructure minister has dropped some cash on the city today. Catherine McKenna says $3.5 million will go to several projects, including work at Bronson Centre and Carleton Community Centre. It will also provide cash to upgrade 29 playgrounds right across Ottawa. Some provincial cash was announced at the same time, and that will go to Centennial Park in Manotick. I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
There's a real mix of topics this morning for the Talkback Hour. It's not all COVID today. But I would like to ask you about the great vaccine hunt. Have you had one dose? Have you had even one dose? Have you had one dose of vaccine recently since the age restrictions for the AstraZeneca vaccine were lowered? And what was your experience? The entire process, how did it go? What was it like? Easy, difficult? Are you kind of still waiting around, hoping and praying? Tell me about it. I want to hear all about it. And also on vaccines. Just also on vaccines. Do you know anyone at all who is fully vaccinated? 2 doses of a 2-dose vaccine. How did that come to pass? How did that happen? According to the Bloomberg Vaccine Tracker, this is a very rare breed in Canada. Just 2.4% of Canadians, 2.4%, that is it. 2.4% of Canadians have had 2 doses of vaccine. Do you know one of these very special people? I'd like to hear all about it. Do you trust? Now, this is the non-COVID stuff this morning. So if you're talked out about COVID, all well and good. We can certainly explore some other issues that are very important. Do you trust, for example, the Trudeau government to regulate YouTube? I'm going to say no. Do you trust the Trudeau government to regulate YouTube and other so-called web giants? Do you want the Trudeau government to have an internet kill switch? I have a lot to say about that particular topic. It's a big issue. And if you're concerned about internet freedom, pay attention to that one. Bill C-10. We'll get into it a little bit later. Polls. New Ipsos poll. And whatever you think of Trudeau, my goodness, you got to give it to him. He has his Liberal Party riding high. The Conservatives, not so much under their new leader, Aaron O'Toole. Mr. Carbon Tax, not really a carbon tax. According to a new poll from Ipsos, it's the Liberals in the lead, 38% versus just 27% for the Conservative Party, 19% for the NDP. And the Liberals are up by 17 points in Ontario. The federal Liberals, when you break it down by province, they're ahead by 17 points in Ontario. 17 points! What do you think is going on? Why is Trudeau up? O'Toole, down. This is some of the worst polling ever for the Conservative Party of Canada. I mean, ever. 27% of the polls for this version of the Conservative Party of Canada. And we just mentioned the Airbnb vote coming up. That's tomorrow, right, David, at City Council? That's coming up for a vote at City Council tomorrow?
Tomorrow's meeting, yeah, we'll find out.
Well, I mean, it sailed through the committee. The mayor has always said we do the hard lifting at the committee. So
he does say that a lot.
They're going to rubber stamp it tomorrow. The Airbnb stuff coming before Ottawa City Council, that you could only list your primary residence for rent as a short-term rental on a platform like Airbnb. I mean, it would, we say Airbnb is kind of like the brand name. It would apply to any platform like Airbnb as well. Do you agree with that policy? Do you think it's a good policy for the city to have, or do you think it's bad form? I think it's a ridiculous policy. That was a good little industry that was growing here in Ottawa. Good little business that some people had going, supplementing income with an investment property. There are some people, maybe we could call them the super hosts. They're made Airbnb a full-time job. But yes, there were complaints, noise complaints, parties, ghost hotels. Stabbings and shootings are never good for business. So it's all coming to an end. They're going to shut her all down, and a person could only list a primary residence on the Airbnb platform. Very few exceptions. Cottage would be exempt. But what do you think about that? 750-1310, 750-1310. Email the Rob Snow Show at ottawa.citynews.ca. Ann, Ottawa. Good morning, Ann.
Oh, hi there.
Hi, Ann.
I wanted to happily report that I got my first shot last Thursday.
Good for you.
I got Pfizer at the Nepean Sportsplex, and I tell you, I cannot say enough good things about the way the process went. It's totally idiot-proof. They guide you all along the way to just make sure you don't start wandering around. You go to this guy, they check you out, symptoms and stuff like that. Then, okay, go over there, show them your health card, and then go over there, sit down, get your needle. And then when you get the needle, you get a piece of paper with the time on it that the doc says you can leave because you have to sit there for 15 minutes
or whatever.
Yeah. So which is good because they check it on the way out to make sure you're not leaving after 5 minutes.
Oh, really? Okay.
But no, I can't say enough good things. And that Airbnb thing, that's ridiculous. Why do they always wade into these stupid areas they shouldn't wade into? That's...
Well, they're saying they're dealing with complaints. One of the quotes from Councillor Brockington is, "It's the Wild West out there."
Oh, my goodness. Rain on every parade, why don't you?
Okay. So you disagree with it. Obviously,
I do.
You disagree with it.
Yeah.
Well, there are people I know. I know of people who had maybe 2 or 3 condos, and this was kind of like their full-time job was doing this. Mm-hmm. But it's coming to an end as soon as tomorrow, and you think it's not a good decision.
No, I don't.
All right, Ann. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Moving on here to Rob in Kemptville. Good morning, Rob.
I'm in Cantley, but
Cantley,
actually,
okay. Sure.
My wife, I live in Kemptville. My wife has phoned all the pharmacies there.
Yeah.
Because
okay.
we have fit under the 55-year-old one. We've been trying 2.5 weeks. They were out of vaccines, our pharmacy, last week.
Okay.
So, and then I told her, I said, the thing on the news they said today about some health thing, the phone. So she phoned that, and you can't even get through to that to get it. I work in construction. I've worked through the whole thing.
Right.
And we work. There's a lot of people on a job site.
Yes.
From all different areas. I try to get done. You can't get done. It's retarded.
Rob, if I could just jump in there, Rob.
All day off to look.
Yeah.
And sit in a line.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Okay. Rob, so you're working in construction, so you're considered essential, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you haven't even had one, Rob, hold on. You haven't even had one dose yet, you're saying?
No.
What about your wife?
No.
Okay.
No, and to me it's crazy. The only reason why we're essential is they didn't shut us down. I don't understand why we're essential.
Okay, all right.
I really don't.
Okay, what kind of construction do you do?
People won't live in it till another 1.5 years from now.
Oh, you're in like home building or?
Yes,
home
construction
building.
like that.
Oh, yeah, okay, all right, okay.
So,
okay.
To me it doesn't make sense. I think it's a money thing because there's so many people off. There's still got to be money coming in to pay everybody.
Well, sure, yeah. Well, it's construction season, too. There's a lot of economic activity that they're to capture there.
Construction goes year-round nowadays.
Yeah, I guess.
Year-round.
Yeah. Even in the home building industry, it's year-round?
Yes.
It is? Wow, okay,
yes.
All right, okay.
We were off 2 weeks at Christmas. I don't know why they didn't shut everything down then, do a total lockdown.
Right, okay.
We're doing it anyway.
So you have found this, you're working in Cantley, but you're...
Well, I'm on the way to Gatineau to pour a pudding now.
Oh, I see, okay. But you live in Kemptville, right? And you have it's been frustrating for you. You're saying it's been frustrating. The whole thing has been frustrating from beginning to end.
How do I sit in the line all day to do it? I'd like to, even I told my pharmacy doesn't even know how many they're going to get or even if they're going to get any till the end of May.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Rob. Thanks for the update there. Yeah. And that's a common thing, right? Especially with AstraZeneca. Unreliable shipments of AstraZeneca. Let's take one more here, and then there'll be 3 or more phone lines available. Steve, Ottawa. Steve.
Morning, Rob. How are you?
Great, sir. Go ahead.
Just a follow-up, answer to your question. We were vaccinated Sunday, my wife and I, in Canada at the Eva James Community Center, and it went flawlessly. It was perfect. We waited I think we registered about a month ago through Ottawa Health, and it was flawless. Like the previous lady there, it was very, very, very well done. Everybody smiling in the place.
Yep.
Very, very well done.
That's good to hear. Good to hear, Steve.
no pain whatsoever. A little bit of, it feels like there's a bruise on the arm. Feels like we have a bruise on our arms, and that's about it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And even if people are getting chills and aches and pains, I mean, I think we've interviewed enough doctors and experts that even if people are experiencing that, it's completely normal. They say, people.
I'm the first one when the vaccines first started coming out. I was one of those guys. I'm not gonna be the first in line, but if you weigh the consequences of getting COVID, obviously, as we all know at this point, the anti-maskers and those people need to be exposed to the hospitals. One of my staff has a daughter that has cancer, and he's in the hospital. Not very much, but she is, and the hospitals are a crap show. They are bad, big time.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks, Steve. Thanks for the good news report there. So 3 calls on, what it's been like to try and book a vaccine since they lowered the age restrictions on AstraZeneca. Kind of mixed so far on that front. If you have an experience you would like to share, I'll take your call. On that and many other issues during the Talkback Hour this morning on The Rob Snow Show on City News.
Well, we're celebrating our 43rd year. It's still family operated. We're in our 2nd generation. We, pre-COVID, we're at about 1,000 employees. We have 20 stores from coast to coast in Canada. We do our own manufacturing. Right here in Ottawa, we have about 160 people that support Canadian-made manufacturing in addition to our retail stores. Taking you back to mid-March and the impact of the pandemic on Lee Valley. Lee Valley was actually in a tough spot. We had just launched our website a few months prior to that, and we were going through, a fairly typical deployment dive where your customers retract as they adjust to the website. And then under stress already, this pandemic hit. And in the early days, it was pretty critical. It hit us really hard. Stores were closed. We weren't sure what to do, so we had to go right into survival mode. As a result, we had to take our workforce almost back to half of where we were at because the stores were closed, and with 20 stores, that's a big retail workforce. But what we were able to do pretty quickly, with a little luck, being essential, selling tools and hardware, we were able to adjust our business model, with respect to the stores and our fulfillment operation. That new website that we were under stress worked out well for us because as the world was under house arrest, people were looking to online, and the conversion to our online sales in some cases almost doubled. And we saw tremendous interest in things to do at home. Where we were lucky once again and fortunate is that our product offering. Work at home tools, craft, hobbies, backyard, container gardening, you name it, what we sold was really appealing to people. With respect to our stores, Lee Valley, a rare unknown fact was that we were one of the pioneers of curbside pickup. We've been doing it for 25 years. Pretty much dove right into the application to help with the contactless shopping right away. We took the application, and it's not like a Apple application where you have to download it to your phone and clutter up your phone. This is literally resides right on our website. So you walk into our store with your phone, you pull up our website, and there's a little scan icon. You just tap that, select your store, off you go. You go through the showroom, you scan product, you can read more about it, you can check the on hand, you can add it to your cart, continue to shop, and when you're ready, you just submit it to the counter. We'll go pick it for you. We'll call out your name, we'll check you out, send you on your way. You haven't touched anything. It's completely safe, and it's using a device you're comfortable with and a website that you're familiar with. Amazingly, 9 out of 10 people that used it loved it and want to use it again.
It's time to talk back
on The Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
Talking about vaccine experiences, the search for a shot. You've had a dose of vaccine recently, especially, I'm interested in hearing about experiences since the age restrictions were lowered on AstraZeneca. Just want to know what it was like. Easy, difficult, still waiting, these kinds of things. Just 2.4% of Canadians have had 2 doses. Just 2.4%, so 97.6% of Canadians have not had 2 doses of vaccines. More than 97% not fully vaccinated. 97.6%, according to the Bloomberg Vaccine Tracker. Is that success? 97%, 4 months into the vaccination program. But do you know one of these special people, just 2.4%, have had 2 doses of vaccine? Who are they? Barb writes, Rob, I know a couple of very special people who have had 2 doses of the Pfizer vaccine. My nephew is a doctor in Toronto, and my dentist. My husband and I have had our first dose in Prince Edward Hastings. We are lucky as our vaccination quota has been reduced by 25%. It's about to drop to 50%. The Trudeau government has failed Canadians at every turn. Thank you for your show. 750-1310, back to our phone lines here on the Talkback Hour. Melanie and Gatineau. Good morning, Melanie.
Hello.
Hi, Melanie.
I'm under 40, so I have not had my vaccine, which is fine.
Okay.
I'm an essential worker, haven't had a day off in 3 years.
In 3 years? Wow.
Yeah, because I had my own business, and then I was a casual employee, and now I'm full-time, and then COVID happened. So anyways, I'm okay waiting my turn, but when all friends who are younger than me have their vaccines, that irks me a little.
I bet it does, yeah.
And all of them work from home. So I just wanted to say that bothers me.
Okay.
Because I'm out there and I go to work every day.
Well, why are they getting vaccinated before you are getting vaccinated?
That's a great question. I have no idea.
Okay.
Toronto, Gatineau, and Ottawa. I have friends that are under my age, younger than me, and they have been vaccinated. Lawyers, I guess, in the postal code in Toronto.
Oh, maybe they live in maybe their postal code is deemed to be a hot spot or something like that.
Well, they live in a pretty nice house, so I'm not sure what the hot spot means. But that's about it with that.
So you have some vaccine envy then, Melanie?
Yes and no.
It's okay. It's okay.
There was someone was sent home in my workplace. So then the new strains and the planes coming into our country kind of bothers me a little.
Sure. Yeah.
And then, I'm going to work every day in a factory type setting. So I'm okay waiting my turn. But when people younger than me are getting their vaccine,
it irks you. Yeah. And I think you have every reason to be irked. No doubt about it. Hang in there, Melanie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your call. Okay, moving along. Michael in Arnprior, you're on City News. Good morning.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I got my first dose of Pfizer.
Okay.
And there's just 3 lanes of traffic. You drive around the building, and then there's 3 lanes getting the injection. It was, from the time I got there until I was done, I was less than 30 minutes.
Top notch in Arnprior, was it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. When did that happen?
The 22nd of April.
Okay, so last week, Thursday.
And my sister, she's just about, she'll have her second shot on Thursday.
Right. So was this kind of, it went by age with Pfizer? Is that how it worked for you? Or did you kind of scheduled through a pharmacy? How did you go about getting your appointment?
I did it through the internet. I got my daughter to do it for me.
Okay.
Internet ignorant, I guess you would call it.
Okay.
But I'm over 70, and I guess I'm kind of essential worker, so it wasn't that hard to get a shot.
Right. Okay. You're an essential worker, you said.
Yeah, I drive
over the age of 70.
Yeah, I drive taxi.
Oh, you drive a taxi. Okay. Isn't that interesting? Okay. Thank you, Michael. I'm glad it went well for you. I'm glad it was well organized.
Oh, yeah, really good.
That's good. Good to hear, Michael. Thank you. We're moving along here. Linda in Nepean. Good morning, Linda.
Hi. Yes, good morning, Rob.
Hi,
you were asking, do I know, or does anyone know anybody who's received their second dose?
Well, yeah, because 97.5% of Canadians have not had 2 doses, right? So that means these are pretty elite. These people are in elite company.
Yes, and the only couple we know are my brother-in-law and sister-in-law in Calgary.
Oh, in Calgary, okay.
Yeah, and everything went well there. They received their dose. The 4 weeks apart.
What do they do that they had it so fast?
I'm not sure. They're over 75 and originally had phoned a pharmacy when they were able to, and it all worked out well for them, but they're the only people I know.
Like 2 doses?
Yes.
Both doses?
April 23rd, they got their second dose, and they feel very fortunate and, very, it's very rare, let's just say.
I would say so.
Yeah. I mean, my husband and I, we both had our first our doses through the city-run clinics, and they were, like everyone's saying, just so smoothly run. And I feel very badly for everybody I feel like you're having to try to scrounge for a vaccine.
Well, I do feel bad for our friend from Kentville who's. He's out there every day working in construction. As he says, I can't sit home on the computer all day and try to book appointments, right?
No, and I think the Vaccine Hunters website is very informative, but I think after seeing one tweet and seeing what happened at Loblaws at College Square and 1,000 people trying to get 110 vaccine shots, it doesn't seem right in our country that this is what it's come to. We have our oldest is over 40, and he's on wait lists, and he put it very tactfully and said, "Well, it's very competitive."
Competitive, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Linda.
Welcome.
Okay.
Bye.
We've reached halftime here on the Talkback Hour. So we're talking about any number of things here. We're primarily talking about the vaccine hunt, the search for shots. Who's had a dose since they lowered the restrictions on the AstraZeneca vaccine? Share your experiences. Do you have an experience to share? Are you still waiting for a call back, still waiting for confirmation of an appointment? And given that just 2.4% of Canadians have actually had 2 doses and are actually fully vaccinated, do you actually know one of those very special, select few Canadians? How did it come to pass that they actually have 2 doses of vaccine? Back right after the 10:30 news with more of your phone calls during the Talkback Hour on the Rob Snow Show on City News.
local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, April 27th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, 8 degrees. Here's what's making news this hour. Cases of COVID-19 are lower in the province today than yesterday. 3,265 new cases. Of those number, Ottawa has 150. There are 2 new cases being reported in Leeds, Grenville, Lanark, 3 in Eastern Ontario Health Unit, 4 new cases today in Renfrew. The numbers come from about 34,000 tests. The province also reporting 29 more deaths from COVID-19. The province has now lowered the age to register for COVID vaccine in its designated hotspots to 45. Now, the city hotspots differ from the provinces. We have reached out to Ottawa Public Health for clarification on who can register at age 45 and older now for a vaccine. The province also opening up vaccines to essential workers in licensed daycares. They can register for their shot starting on Thursday. Now, one of the provinces that has been doing very well compared to others is reporting a spike in cases today. Nova Scotia set a record for that province yesterday with 66 new cases. Today, the province of Nova Scotia has 96. City News Time, 10:32. I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
Second half of the Talk Back Hour. The search for shots, hunt for vaccines. You had 1 dose of vaccine recently. Get your first dose. I'm particularly interested in people who took advantage of the lowering of the age restriction and the experience, easy, difficult, still waiting. Just tell me about it. Want to hear all about it. And do you know anyone at all who has had 2 doses? They're in a very select company. Bloomberg Vaccine Tracker today, 2.4% of Canadians have had 2 doses. I wonder if the media pounded away every day and wrote a story every day that said 97% of Canadians are not fully vaccinated. 97% of Canadians are not fully vaccinated. If the vaccination rollout from the Trudeau government would be viewed as a great success. Do you know someone who has had 2 doses of vaccine? The Trudeau government wants to regulate YouTube. What could possibly go wrong? It wants an internet kill switch for web giants. Sounds like a great idea. Sign me up for that. New polls out. Conservatives struggling, Liberals riding high. 38% for the Liberals. According to Ipsos, 27 for the Conservatives. Good to see Aaron O'Toole's team got a big bounce from embracing the carbon tax. That policy's working out like a charm for Aaron O'Toole. Listen, everybody will love us if the Conservatives have a carbon tax. Yeah, 27% in the polls. Some of the worst polling results ever for this Conservative Party of Canada. Airbnb vote coming up at Ottawa City Council tomorrow. You can only list your primary residence for rent on a platform like Airbnb. Do you agree with that policy? Good policy, bad policy? That and many more things we're getting into during the Talkback Hour on the Rob Snow Show today. Kevin in the Pembroke area. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Rob. I'll give you a little bit of a story of our family and our quest and success and whatever with our vaccine. So I'm 60 years old. And I'm getting my first shot this Thursday at a city-run clinic. Okay. Now, as far as my family goes, my father being like 87, he's had both his shots. He's living in a home. He's taken care of. He's fine. He's sitting pretty pretty. Mom is on her own, and she's 85 and she's had 1 shot.
85 and has still only had 1 shot.
That's right. She's not scheduled until July for a second shot. Okay. So she's still a bit struggling there. She feels a bit cramped up at home there. Now, how about my other family? My brother is in Texas. He's had both shots and he's flying to Hawaii today for 2 weeks. I can't even fly to Nova Scotia for business.
No.
You can go to Hawaii for vacation for 2 weeks and sit on the beach. How's that grab you?
That's pretty good. That's pretty good for him, yeah.
And sister, she's a snowbird, and she's coming back to Canada tomorrow. and she's had both her shots. And
Both her
she's not
shots.
actually not even a resident, but she's down in Florida and went down and said, I've got some pre-existing conditions or whatever, and they took care of her, no problem, down in the States.
Yeah.
So,
all of our American acquaintances and all of our American friends are all younger than 50, all fully vaccinated.
Wow. Yeah, we're doing a bang up job here, but
Yeah, all fully vaccinated. Yeah.
that's crazy. Well, that's kind of our story anyway. So I'll be done myself personally in August.
Right. Okay.
Second shot. And I've got grandparents are living as my kids' grandparents living as they're from China, and they are totally averse to getting Hemingway. They just I asked, do you want to go? And right now they're kind of averse to it. So I'm going to keep on trying. Keep on trying.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you, Kevin.
Okay.
Thank you. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Okay. Next is Ted in Ottawa. Good morning, Ted.
Morning, Rob.
Sir.
First time caller, by the way.
Appreciate it, Ted. Thanks for taking the opportunity to talk to me. What's your experience been with vaccines in Ottawa?
Oh, you were asking to talk to somebody who's had both doses, and I have.
You have? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. How did that happen, sir? How did you get so lucky?
I volunteered at a senior's home.
You're in a senior's home, okay.
No, I volunteer there.
Oh, you volunteer there, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And
okay.
all of the staff and volunteers were double vaccinated.
Okay. So when did you start getting your shots then?
I got my first one back in February.
Oh, in February. My gosh, it seems so long ago now in February.
The second one towards the end of March.
Towards the end of March. Okay, so how long did you wait between doses, would you say? Was it
Well, that would have been
3 weeks, 4 weeks?
3 weeks that they wanted.
So it was kind of like before they changed the rules, right?
Yeah, that's right.
You actually followed the manufacturer's recommendation.
Yeah, we did what we were told.
Yeah, did what you were told. Yeah. And what vaccine was it? Do you happen to know offhand?
It was the Pfizer.
It was the Pfizer vaccine. No issues to report. Everything's A-okay. And
yeah, no, it was fine. The only way I knew I had the second shot was I had a bandage in my arm.
Right. Good. So you're pretty much 95% protected now.
I should be, yeah. Although we still wear masks and everything.
You do, yeah, sure you do.
It'd be interesting to see what President Biden says tonight.
Yeah, well, there's supposed to be some new guidance from the CDC coming out today about what the protocols are going to be like for wearing masks in public, because the Americans are so far ahead of where Canada is on the vaccination rollout.
From what Fauci said yesterday, if you've had the double vaccine, you probably don't need to wear a mask outside.
Right. Okay. Well, 2.4% of Canadians have had 2 doses, and you're one of them.
I am indeed.
Yeah, you're very lucky, Ted. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep. Thank you, Ted. Yep. There you go. Found one. Lori in Ottawa. Lori.
Hi.
Hi, Lori.
Yes. Our family's all from Alberta, and everybody I know that's 80 and over has already had their second shot, and then the amount of times that the manufacturer suggested.
Okay, hold on, Lori. Hold on. Yeah. We're going to just put you on hold because your phone is breaking up. I do want to hear what you have to say, but the phone is such poor quality right now. The connection's so bad, it's almost unlistenable. So maybe call back? Is that it? Yeah? Okay. She'll call back. We'll try her again later. I can't listen to that. It'll drive me nuts, and I don't have far to go. I'm Kim, Barhaven. Kim.
Hi.
Hi, Kim.
How are you?
I'm okay, Kim. How are you?
I'm good. I love listening to your show.
Well, I thank you for that compliment. What's your vaccine experience? Tell me about it.
So I registered with Shoppers Drug Mart about 2 weeks ago online.
Yeah.
And the notification I got back when they said I had successfully registered was to expect to receive an email letting me know of an appointment within weeks or within months.
Within weeks or months.
Shocked me, right?
Okay.
So then, and I'm 55, so I'm eligible for the AstraZeneca anyway.
Yeah.
And so then my pharmacist, who I've been dealing with for 10 years, he runs a small, the Barhaven IDA out here, he asked if I had got my shot, and he said, well, let me book you in. So I said, okay. So Saturday morning, my husband and I went and had our shot. My husband's 52, so he's just over 50. And, we both wanted to wait out for the Pfizer, but I think mostly because of, I don't have any health history to worry about blood spots and stuff like that, but mostly because of the efficacy, right?
Yes.
However,
yes.
I then saw a YouTube that I must have watched about 6 or 7 or 8 times because it just drilled home that this 95% for Pfizer and 65% for AZ, it means really nothing because these trial groups were done last year.
We just lost Kim. Okay. I don't know what happened there. Got to move on. I think, you know what self-coverage is like in Barrhaven, right? It's not the greatest. So what if you pay $5,000-$6,000 a year in property tax? Doesn't guarantee you a good cell coverage in Barrhaven. Ted Kempville. Good morning, Ted.
Yeah, good morning, Rob. First-time caller, long-time listener.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah, so my wife is a hospital worker. She got her Pfizer vaccine 3 weeks ago, which is great.
Okay.
I was too old, or I'm only 54, so I was not old enough to get the Pfizer vaccine or get on the list.
Right.
And on Friday, I heard a story about a friend of mine that got COVID, and it kind of scared me straight. I've been not too nervous about things until this. And I was holding out for the Pfizer vaccine. So anyways, on Saturday, I started making some inquiries in Kempville, and nobody had any. The only place that had any was the Your Independent pharmacy. So I called there Sunday morning and asked them if they had any openings. She said no. And then she said, I said, well, can I get put on a wait list or cancellation list? And she said, well, we don't have a cancellation list. And I said, so I kind of gave up there, and then my wife convinced me to call back about 20 minutes later. And when I called back, I said, well, what happens when somebody doesn't show up? And she said, oh, we just kind of go about our day. There's nothing. And I said, well, I'm only 5 minutes away, so if I left my number, can you give me a call if somebody doesn't show up? And I said, I can call back every 15 minutes if you want, to see if there's an opening.
Right. It's kind of like you're trying to fly standby.
Yeah. So I waited about, she put me on hold, and this was not the pharmacist I was talking to. It was pharmacist assistant, I guess.
Right. Okay.
Anyways, she put me on hold, and she came back about a couple minutes later and said, no, we can get you in at 1:30. I called her about 10 o'clock in the morning. And so anyways, I went in and got my shot, and but it was just kind of funny. I'm not quite sure what to make of it,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it either. But other than persistence pays off, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And my wife had convinced me to do it because a lot of her friends had done the same thing. So,
yeah, but it is kind of this. I don't know how to describe what I'm hearing right now. It's almost kind of like a Lord of the Flies scenario here. It's like everyone for themselves, It's like,
the only disappointing thing I had really was, and I was listening to the lady that called in just ahead of me. I was holding out for the Pfizer vaccine. It had nothing to do with the blood clot thing or anything. That didn't register with me. I just wanted the best vaccine that I thought would be the most effective. One other thing I want to mention about the AZ is when I asked her when I could expect my second shot, she had no idea. This was the pharmacist. She just basically shrugged her shoulder at me.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and I said, took my number because I wanted to be notified by text. And she said, well, you get a text when it's ready. And I said, well, would I get 24 hours notice? Would it text me like, get in here now sort of thing? And same thing, she's like, I don't know. It all depends on supply, and there's no supply out there right now.
Okay. Well, I think if everything goes according to plan and Mr. Trudeau's been honest at all, and I know people are like, oh, Rob, did you really just say that? We should be swimming in vaccines by then, by the summertime. This should not be an issue at all. We'll see. We'll be right back. Judy, Karen, Lori, there's a couple of lines there available if anybody else wants to grab one. We're just talking vaccine experiences, the hunt for vaccines, the search for a shot on The Rob Snow Show on City News.
everyone's got their own little dreams. I want to write the next novel. I want to write a screenplay, which I still want to do. So owning my own business is something I've always in the back of your mind. Oh yeah, that'd be really cool to try and do. I end up lost my job that I had for 20 years, and I found myself with nothing. Trying to figure out what am I going to do now. I'm mid-40s, and I got a lot of different experience, mainly in retail. So I figured, you know what, let's try to give this a go. I didn't really have any money. I started up with the little website. We went with that, and then it's kind of just grown from there. I have such a passion for this, it's not even work for me. This is a hobby that I get to, thankfully make a living off of. When you walk in, you're going to be overwhelmed, I think, with all the amount of licensed product that we have. I only sell licensed product. I don't sell anything no name or anything. Everything is 100% officially licensed, depending on the franchise. So I like to support a lot of different franchises, a lot of pop culture. So I do have a little bit of music, vinyl, Star Trek, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, Doctor Who, Game of Thrones, you name it. There's probably something around, or if I don't have it, you let me know and I'll do whatever I can to, try and find it for you. I do some comic books. A lot of the interesting things that I do are items that you just don't find anywhere else. I probably have the best selection of pop culture cookbooks. So cookbooks from Walking Dead and Downton Abbey and Orange is the New Black, Hannibal, Marvel, Wonder Woman. I've got the best selection of Star Trek ships in the city. Well, actually, I've got the best selection in the country. I'm the only retailer in Canada that deals directly with the company Eagle Moss. I've got the best variety of Pop Funko figures within the city. I got the best prices, hands down. Even some of my action figures that I sell that are available at Walmart and Toys R Us, I'm cheaper than them, which is a lot of times you don't realize it. So even that small business can offer you a great value.
It's time to talk back.
On the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
So yes, we are aware. We're having some online issues with our app and the feed through our website. So we're rebooting it. You know how this goes, right? Control-Alt-Delete, okay? This is what the engineers are doing. They're doing the control. I don't even know if they do that in this building, David. I don't know. It's like somebody in Toronto with 18 letters after their names, sitting in a command center somewhere. I just do Control-Alt-Delete. Task Manager. Okay, hit and see where it says not responding. Then click on that. Okay, hit close. And if there's something wrong with our online feed, they are aware of it and they're working on it. Well, I don't even know if they're aware of it or if they're working on it. We're aware of it, though. It's not working because you've told us that it's not working. So
I sent an email.
You've sent an email.
They should be aware.
Okay. But will the email actually arrive at its intended destination? Fingers crossed, my friends. Fingers crossed. Okay. Lori, we're talking vaccines. The hunt for vaccines. The search for shots. Lori, yes, Alberta. What you were telling a story there, and then you got cut off.
Yeah, well, our family's all mostly in Alberta, and everybody that we just moved to Ottawa a few months ago. Everybody that we know there that's 75 and over has had both their shots already. So, and they've had either Pfizer or Moderna.
Well, lucky them.
Yeah, well, there's less people there, I guess, if maybe they're getting proportionally more vaccines than we are here in Ontario, I guess.
Well, still, I mean, nationwide, it's only 2.4% of the entire Canadian population has had.
Yeah. But no, everybody
doses of
got on
vaccine.
Facebook with them, and everybody's, I got my second one. And it's
Second dose,
within the
wow.
time frame that they're supposed to, right? According to the manufacturer.
Okay, they weren't just spreading them out. Okay, I'm surprised to hear that. I'm surprised to learn that, actually.
Now, I did get my Moderna shot 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Into a pop-up, because I'm in the K1V.
Oh, yes, okay.
Through a pop-up. But they had no idea when I'm going to get my second one. I'm not booked for the second one.
Oh, really?
When I've called
Like, they couldn't even tell you the
said,
month, Lori? They couldn't even...
No,
really?
absolutely nothing. Now, my husband, who got it a week later at one that was booked online, I got in by, I was on call, right? I got in just on a wait list.
Okay.
And it was to one that was run by the city. It was just like a pop-up one, and then, but my husband got in a week later, and because he booked through Provincial, he knows he's getting his second one in July. I have no idea, and nobody seems to know when I've called the city, our health thing here in Ottawa, and I've called the provincial line, and they just say,
but you're saying everybody you know. But you're saying everybody you know in Alberta over the age of 75 has had 2 doses of vaccine.
That's right.
Oh, okay. Surprised to hear that.
In the Edmonton area.
In the Edmonton area. Okay. I'm surprised to hear that. Thank you, Lori. Thank you. Okay. Yep. Bye-bye. Kim was calling in from Barhaven, and then her phone dropped, too, so we're kind of cleaning things up here. Kim?
Hi.
Hi, Kim. That's okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. You won't be the last person to hang up on me. Don't you worry. Okay.
I know I was talking about the efficacy rate. I have that YouTube, like I say, I'm 55. My memory's not so great anymore, but I must have watched about 6 or 7 times. I want to forward that to you, that particular YouTube that I saw.
Oh, it's on YouTube? It's on YouTube?
Yeah, it is a doctor's. Yeah, it was just sent to me. It's not like, anyway. I know everybody thinks YouTube,
YouTube,
fake news, blah, blah, blah. No.
That's where all the greatest experts are. They're all on YouTube, Yeah.
And I wanted to say, too, I was listening to some of the callers. When I got my vaccine, I was given a little card with a sticker saying that I had received the vaccine on this day, the lot number, the expiry date of the vaccine would have been May 31st. And then it says underneath, follow-up dose eligible after August 14. And I got it on April 24. That's kind of scary, isn't it? It's like well over 4 months. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Kim.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Good to hear from you. Okay. Judy, Ottawa. Judy.
Yes. Hi.
Hi, Judy.
Sort of further to your previous callers, I got my vaccine at the Arnprior drive-through, which was fabulous. Beautiful day for a drive, and got my little card to say, that I was vaccinated, and they don't know when I can get my second one. It was a Pfizer. I'm sort of the one caller before the fellow was saying that you call in and book an appointment, okay, and you'll get, if somebody doesn't show up, they'll stick you in there. So I'm going to call and I'm going to try and get my second vaccine after April 29th. Is that going to work, I wonder?
Well, I will. I mean, are you going to be truthful that you've already had your first dose, you mean?
Yeah, well, I have that's what I'm saying. And I want to stick to as close to the 21 days.
Yeah, well, I wish you will.
I know. If other people can phone.
Yeah.
And then, so are they going to, and I tell them, yes, I've had my first one. Are they going to tell me, no, I can't get the leftover vaccine for the day?
Well, I don't know what they're going to tell you, but I think if I was on that telephone and the protocol was you got to wait 4 months for your second dose, I'd tell you, call me back in 4 months, lady. Mm-hmm. That's what I would say.
And I'm going to tell them that my sheet of paper I got after my vaccine says that the Pfizer is 21 days and the Moderna is 26 days.
Yes.
So I'm just thinking if people can phone in and get the leftovers for the day, why can't I phone in and get the leftover for the second dose?
Well, you give it a shot and tell me how it goes.
I will. And I love the Control-Alt-Delete.
Yeah. All right, Judy. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, so we're having trouble with our app and our web feed. There's something wrong there. We are aware of the issue. You don't have to call David and ask David, why can't I hear you on the internet? It's nothing David did, okay? We like to blame a lot of stuff on David around here, but he had nothing to do with that. Karen in Greeley. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning.
Hi, Karen.
Caller.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yay. Oh, if only I had a prize to give you.
Yeah. Why I'm calling a few things to say. Firstly, I do have my vaccine, the AstraZeneca. I'm 55. I just said that on the air, but anyway.
I won't tell anybody, Karen.
No.
It's just between you and me.
And like your other callers, I would thought, I would rather the Pfizer. Why? Because I'm hearing it's more effective. But the rate of increase of people being ill, the variants out there, I thought, no, I have an opportunity to get protected.
Right.
I'm getting my vaccine. So that's my first.
Good
and
move.
I registered online through the COVID, booking online system.
Okay.
And where they pop up the different pharmacies. I booked at PharmaSafe and Shoppers and any pharmacy basically within a 20-kilometer radius, 30-kilometer radius. And I did receive an email back from Shoppers indicating they had my information, that they would contact me when a dose was available. But I immediately received something from PharmaSafe, Paul's PharmaSafe in Manotick. Shout out to him, because within a week I was vaccinated.
Good.
And I have friends in the area who went through Paul's PharmaSafe and had the same fortune, I suppose, to get vaccinated within a week or so, within a week or two. I guess we were lucky. Maybe they had the doses available.
Maybe Paul's got the inside track down there, man.
Maybe. So, and they were just so professional and so pleasant. I have other friends who actually, once they dropped the age, they're in their 40s, tried to get it at IDA in Lion Bank. Unfortunately, they were booked, but he was kind enough to refer her to the Stittsville IDA, where she was booked and received her dose within days.
Good.
So, yeah, some positive stories.
Yeah, a lot of the, and I don't know, the experience of the callers, it seems a lot of the independent pharmacists seem to be doing better with supply maybe than some of the chains. I don't know. Maybe that's just my impression. I don't know. But
I think if you're willing to travel as well, because a lot of us, like I said, we registered at numerous pharmacies.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to travel 20, 30, 40 kilometers, put your name out there, get yourself on these systems, and take the first one that comes up. And we were fortunate. And I'm not concerned about blood clots with the AstraZeneca. Like I said, I wanted to get as much protection as I could, do my part, and yay.
Yeah.
And I was sick. Yay. I can tell you, too, if I want to talk side effects, the pharmacist has said within 8 hours or so, you may or may not get some side effects. I'm telling you, within 8 hours, I had my arm became sore, really sore, and I got my shot at 1 p.m., and by 10 p.m., I had the fever.
Yeah, you were down for the count, right?
I was down for the count.
And probably within a day, it had all subsided, right, Karen?
It all subsided.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
It means it's working, I guess, is what I hear.
And, I told myself, this is temporary. This is what it's supposed to do. You'll be fine come the next day. And I
Not
went.
unusual at all. That's good, Karen. Thank you. Got to run. Thank you. Thank you for all your calls. Very interesting hour on the search for the shot on the Rob Snow Show here on City News.
local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, April 27th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, 8 degrees, and here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. The latest COVID-19 numbers from the province show 3,265 new cases, Ottawa with 150 of them. 2 new cases in Leeds, Grenville, Lanark, lower numbers in Eastern Ontario as well, with 3 and 4 new cases in Renfrew. The numbers come from about 34,000 tests, and the province also reporting 29 more deaths. The positivity rate from these 34,000 tests dropped from yesterday's record of 10.9% down to 10.2. As of 8 o'clock this morning, residents 45 and older within Ottawa's high-risk areas identified by the province were able to book their appointment for a COVID-19 vaccine. According to a release from the provincial government, it allows residents in postal codes K1V, K1T, and K2V to book their appointments at mass vaccination sites through the provincial portal. Also, as of Thursday, childcare workers in licensed childcare settings eligible to book their appointment through the provincial vaccine line or directly through public health units that use their own booking system. Now, we have reached out to Ottawa Public Health to see if their hotspots are included in the provincial 45 and older. We have not heard back so far. City News time, 11:02. Now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
We'll have varying amounts of sun and cloud through the area today. The high about 14 degrees. Showers tonight, but not until late tonight for the most part. 7 for the low. And then tomorrow, periods of rain and 15. For today, the high, 14.
And right now in both Ottawa and Smiths Falls, it's 8 degrees. We're hearing the federal government will include more detail on what it's doing to help the situation in India. That country reporting more than 323,000 new coronavirus infections today. Almost another 2,800 people have died just in the past 24 hours. In fact, about 115 people are dying of COVID-19 every hour in India. Experts say all the numbers are likely an underestimation. Respirologist Dr. Lance Pinto says India has been taken by surprise by the sheer scale of this latest surge.
I think nobody anticipated the scale or the magnitude of what we are facing right now. I think all of us got a little complacent based on the fact that the numbers reduced to such low levels in the month of January that we thought that the worst was behind us.
Our Parliament Hill reporter Cormac McSweeney says he hears the federal update on COVID today will include the measures for India. It is another example of what frontline workers have to deal with during this pandemic. Listen to this.
You guys are absolutely disgusting. There you go. Enjoy a lawsuit. You understand me?
That customer was a little upset because someone in a pet store in Richmond, BC asked her, please put on your mask. A union leader in BC says a mental health program they run for their people has seen an uptick in cases just in the last month. All 3 levels of government coming together, providing a chunk of cash for improved community and cultural infrastructure in the city. Here's reporter Alex Gouge.
The funding will help revitalize the Bronson Centre and Carleton Community Health Centre while upgrading 29 parks across the city. Centennial Park in Manotick is also set to get a significant facelift, which includes a skate park. The federal government is investing more than $3.5 million towards the projects, while the government of Ontario is providing over $2.9 million. The city of Ottawa is also putting $1.4 million towards the park renewal projects. In response to the funding, Mayor Jim Watson says given the status of the pandemic, it's a good time to upgrade the city's parks.
We see how popular these playgrounds are, and given the fact they're not in school, they're not able to go and by and large use the school yards. So this is the perfect time to invest and expand and improve.
Somerset Ward Councillor Catherine McKenney feels investments in health centres such as the Bronson Centre are always positive and continues to add to the community's well-being. Alex Gouge, City News.
And I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's the opinionated Ottawa icon.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
One of the big news stories over the weekend was just how long the shortage will last of computer chips, semiconductors. And the CEO of the tech giant Cisco Systems, Chuck Robbins is his name, he told BBC over the weekend that the shortage of computer chips could last most of this year. In other words, probably for another 6 months. And a lot of companies have seen production delays because of a lack of semiconductors. It's been triggered by the COVID pandemic and just made worse by a number of other factors. So we're going to explore this right now because it affects so many industries. By one count, maybe as many as 164, 165 different industries. Shawn DuBravac joins me now. He's chief economist at IPC, Electronic Manufacturing Trade Association. Good morning. Nice to hear from you.
Thanks, Rob. It's great to be here with you.
What is a semiconductor? Explain what that is, first of all, for people who don't know that term.
Well, semiconductor is a computer chip that goes into a host of products today. You know, in the past, we might have only put that in a computer, but increasingly everything is becoming a computer. And in many ways, it is the brain of all of these digital products that we are putting around them. So if you look at something like the auto industry, it isn't uncommon to see upwards of 50 different semiconductors in some of the most cutting-edge modern vehicles, controlling everything from your navigation system that you see built into the dashboard to your lane assist warnings or your proximity sensors or other things. So there's a tremendous amount of electronics going in all of the products that we use on a daily basis.
Right. So what caused the shortfall of semiconductors?
There's really a lot of contributing factors. This recession is unique in many ways. In a typical recession, you tend to see services do okay and people cut back on what we call durable goods. So these are things like cars and computers and household appliances.
Right.
And typically our thinking is, well, we can get another year out of that washer or that dryer. We can get another 6 months or 8 months out of our car. And so you prolong the life of those assets and you delay purchases. Well, in this recession, we all ended up in our homes. We were quarantining. We weren't going out and partaking in all of the services. We weren't traveling. And as a result, we started to invest in and buy goods. So we bought computers, we bought electronics, we bought other things like that. So that's part of the impact is demand for some of these products increased significantly in the early months of the pandemic. And ever since that point, the supply chain has been working to produce enough to satisfy this rising demand.
Yeah. So it's been under strain simply because of demand, and then along comes COVID, and it kind of it reaches a tipping point, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, and there have been lots of strains. So one is increase in demand, but also logistics and transportation has been impacted by that. So by the pandemic. So that has also contributed to some of the supply chain tightness that we see. Ports are congested. As we stopped traveling internationally, you saw air freight capacity decline. So about half of air freight capacity is in the belly hold of commercial airlines. So as we stopped traveling international, then that makes it harder and more expensive to move goods from one place to the next.
Yeah, and probably having one of the largest cargo ships in the world to block the Suez Canal for a week or two doesn't help either. Black swan events help. Like that, right? So
yeah, and that could not have come at a worse time because supply chains were already backed up. We were seeing rising backlogs. Inventory levels were tight across the board through hundreds of different industries, as you already noted. So it could not have come at a worse time.
Yeah. I do also wonder, and you touched on this. The auto industry has been kind of referred to as the tech industry. You want the latest tech, look at the modern automobile now, and it's filled with semiconductors, computer chips, the brains of the automobile. Every automobile has kind of like a black box or maybe several black boxes on it now. But also we're living in this new era where everything is kind of the Internet of Things. And we have smart appliances, and we have smart speakers, and we have, smart alarm systems and all of these things. So we have all of these new gadgets and new industries, and I'm wondering, are they competing for the global? They must be competing for the global supply of semiconductors as well, right?
Definitely. All of those industries and all of the products you mentioned are definitely competing for the global supply. And one of the things we saw happen early in the pandemic was auto sales declined significantly across the board, almost in every country, certainly in North America. Then we saw production cutbacks. And so as production cutbacks were implemented, the demand for some of those input goods like semiconductors slowed down. At the same time, we saw restaurants trying to move online. We saw other retailers and other services moving their services online. And so that drove a massive spike in online demand and ultimately cloud storage and cloud servers, which all require semiconductors. So at the same time that auto production was declining, you saw a rise in some of these other categories. Of course, while we were all in our homes, we decided to get a new television or get other new electronics in certain parts of our home. And so that definitely crowded out some of the available inventory or the available capacity ultimately for some of these other traditional categories like the auto sector.
Okay, so geographically, is there one country that is dominant in the production of semiconductors? Where are semiconductors made?
Asia has increasingly become quite dominant in the production of semiconductors, especially Taiwan. So Taiwan is a very significant country when it comes to semiconductor production, what we call fabrication. So there's a large number of fabs in Taiwan. I think you are going to start to see companies explore what their global supply chains look like. In the past, they were trying to optimize what felt like a single supply chain that was global in nature. And I think what you're going to see increasingly is companies are going to be looking at how do we diversify our supply chain. Maybe we manage multiple supply chains, so we have regional supply chains that can react and respond to changing dynamics. One thing we know about supply chains is they always learn and internalize these lessons of disruption that take place. They're constantly responding to disruptions and trying to optimize the flow of goods from inputs to all the way down to consumers.
Okay, so we hear about things, for example, there's a big home renovation boom and a home building boom on right now. The price of lumber has also gone through the roof, and that means the price of renovations and homes is going higher. So given the supply constraints for semiconductors, could that mean higher prices for consumers for some of the products?
I think what you will see when it comes to the shortage in semiconductors is not necessarily higher prices, but what I'll consider firm prices. So, for example, in the auto sector, they've had to cut back on some production. They've cut back on the units available. And so when you walk onto a car lot today, you might see that they have less inventory. And when they have less inventory, then that by definition gives them a little bit of an edge when it comes to negotiating those prices. If you're not willing to pay the price that they want, they might be willing to hold that car because it's the only one they have with those certain features or what have you. So I think what that will result in is just firmer prices. The ability for consumers to negotiate will be much more difficult. Technology, though, has a very deflationary effect. So it means that over time, prices go down, and you can just take a look at the television that you could buy today versus the television you would have bought even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, let alone 30 years ago, how that technology has changed and how prices have changed as well.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time and explaining it to our listeners this morning. It's greatly appreciated.
Glad to be here with you, Rob.
Yeah. Shawn DuBravac in Washington, D.C. this morning, where he's chief economist at IPC, Electronics Manufacturing Trade Association. Shortage of computer chips affects everything. 11:16 on the Rob Snow Show. We'll talk about the vote on Airbnb type platforms coming up at City Council this week here on City News.
When you've lost your breasts, you've sort of lost part of yourself. And then all at once you're losing your hair. You don't know who you are anymore. You want to feel like yourself again. So I think that the store, a mastectomy store, is essential because you've lost your identity. And then all at once you're looking for a wig, you need a headscarf, you need a camisole. There's nowhere to go, there's no one to talk to. This should be essential because there are more and more women that are getting breast cancer. I think it's 1 in 6. They're becoming younger. I have a client that's 18 years old. And where do they go? They need a place like this that the women that work there understand. They know what you're going through. It's changed quite a bit. Our hours are different. We're now open from 10 to 5. We're not as busy as we were. A lot of women are afraid to go out. They're afraid that maybe there are more people in the store. So that's why I try and let them know you are alone. There's absolutely nobody in the store except you and I. If there is a woman that she's very afraid, I will lock the door to make sure nobody else comes in. I'll put a sign back in 10, 15 minutes just to give her that reassurance. Before we would have 4, 5, 6 people in the store. We didn't have to turn anybody away. Now we do. Some clients do leave and they're upset because they're in the store. They said, you know, we drove 20 minutes and now we're not allowed in the store. And I try to make them understand that there's somebody in here that's going through chemo or radiation. So that's sort of changed a lot, that we're not able to have more people in the store.
If we're talking about products, there's the bras that are adapted for mastectomy. The bathing suits that are adapted to mastectomy. We have special camisoles as well, and post-surgery bras. And then we have, for women going through chemo, the wigs that we have a big selection in the store as well. We have scarves. Some women don't feel comfortable wearing a wig. They prefer to wear a scarf or a hat, so we have a huge selection of that as well. We offer compression garments as well. When you're going through a mastectomy, you might have lymphedema in your arms after a couple of years, and you have flare-ups. So we have the sleeves, the hand as well that can be covered. We show each other's our scar. We talk about the treatments, how we felt, and I guess that's what they're looking for here. That's what makes us special. We have an added value in this store. Besides everything that's in the store, that's a product that can handle any problem that a client might have. Me and Linda, we've been through. We know how it feels in our bodies.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
We will be following with interest the City Council meeting tomorrow when we expect a vote on short-term rental rules for the City of Ottawa that would prohibit listing anything but a primary residence on a platform like Airbnb. Thorben Wieditz joins me now. He's with FairBnb Canada, and we talked before. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having us.
It's very, very, very nice to hear from you. What do you think about this policy of banning anything but a primary residence from being listed on a platform like Airbnb, Mr. Wieditz?
For sure. I mean, I would look at it from the different perspective. I would say what Ottawa is doing is it is actually allowing short-term rentals. It is legalizing the practice, but it puts some boundaries around this practice. And I think restricting short-term rentals to a principal residence or a primary residence makes a whole lot of sense when it comes to ensuring that we don't see hundreds, if not thousands, of residential buildings that have been planned, zoned, approved, and built as residential buildings being turned into quasi-hotels and ghost hotels in the midst of residential neighborhoods. Okay. So if it's a principal residence, it means that you and I, we can rent out our place when we go away, when we're on vacation, and we have a relationship with our neighbors, and we want to keep this good relationship, presumably. And we make damn sure that this is what's happening, and we rent out our place responsibly. If you allow short-term rentals outside of those principal residences, in investment properties, we see a concentration of ghost hotel inventory in the hands of few ghost hotel operators that have no commitment to the neighborhoods, no neighbors, and they are just there to make a lot of money. And that's where we see a lot of problems. We see the undermining of housing stock. We see, the neighborhood cohesion and community cohesion deteriorate. We have party houses. We see that, all the health restrictions and safety measures implemented during COVID can be sort of circumvented by having these party houses operate. So I think it makes a whole lot of sense, and it allows still people to make some extra money, and is a good balance between people's freedom to participate in the short-term rental market and people's rights as neighbors and community members to have a peaceful existence amidst residential communities.
So how widespread, how prevalent was this issue of things like ghost hotels, for example?
In the pre-COVID era, the data showed us that there were about 2,800 Airbnb listings in Ottawa, and over 1,000 of them were so-called ghost hotels that were operated by hosts that have two, at minimum, often more, entire homes on the Airbnb platform full-time as quasi-hotel stock. So that's a significant number, particularly when you face a very low vacancy rate. In the pre-pandemic, the vacancy rate set as 1.6% in Ottawa, which is highly unhealthy. So removing these ghost hotels from the short-term rental market and placing them back on the long-term market has a number of benefits. And I think we will, I'm very pleased that the city of Ottawa will likely approve these regulations tomorrow because it's the moment. The moment is now. Post-pandemic, we will have a Wild West if the rules are not in place. And people will try to make a lot of money in the short-term rental market, and we will see.
What's wrong with making a lot of money?
With what I explained it earlier, I think it's fair if you and I use our own residence to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But if you, have a residence next door to you, a house next door to you, you don't know the homeowner, and this homeowner makes a lot of money in the residence next to you full time, and you have no way of shutting this place down, I tell you that you probably don't feel great about your neighbor making a lot of money running a ghost hotel next door to your own quiet residential place that you and your family want to enjoy.
Yeah. What about I don't know how prevalent that actually is in Ottawa, but you say there's 1,000 units, so that would leave 1,800, right? A balance of about 1,800 units. What is known about the makeup of those 1,800 units then?
We know that about 1,000 of those were held by folks that have at least 2 units online. Right. The other ones are people that are regular people that rent out their own homes. So those people, it doesn't impact them. It's really only an issue for those few people that have stockpiled housing stock, investment properties. Either leased them or bought them for the sole purpose of running hotels in the midst of residential neighborhoods. Those guys have a problem now. But the vast majority of hosts are actually and want to legally operate Airbnbs out of their own principal residence, and they have nothing to worry about because their use will be legalized and will be completely fine and tolerated by the city of Ottawa.
Right. So, all told, we're talking about say 800 units in the city that people have. You said 2 or more listings, 800 or so.
No, right? Pre-pandemic it was over 1,000.
Over 1,000. Okay, well, 1,800. Okay.
Pre-pandemic, pre-pandemic we had about 2,830 Airbnb listings in Ottawa, and 1,054 of them were entire homes that were used entirely full-time as hotel inventory amidst residential neighborhoods. And I kind of like to stress this because, we are located in Toronto, and we are seeing and hearing from neighbors and residents in condominium buildings and in residential neighborhoods that have for years experienced full-time hotel use, either in condo units below them or next to them, or in residential single-family homes next to theirs. And they have been bothered to no end.
Yeah.
And they have a hard time shutting these places down because those folks that come in on a transient basis, they don't give a crap. They're going to party, and they're going to be gone 2 days later.
Well, maybe, I suppose there are ways, I guess, maybe the condo board, this is up to the bylaws of condo boards to prohibit the listing of Airbnb of their units, which I know a number of condo boards have, right? And a number of property managers have done this.
It is very difficult.
Okay.
But now most condos allow short-term rental use in their declarations, and then you have literally no avenue to shut them down.
Did Toronto do this? Didn't Toronto do this? Something similar to this?
Yeah, Toronto passed a very similar set of regulations, and they are right now reining in the ghost hotel inventory in the city. But I have to say also that the COVID pandemic obviously has changed the situation dramatically.
Right. Okay.
There is a lot less tourism. People are not traveling. People have, their stay-at-home orders. So, we really have to wait and see post-pandemic how those regulations
how it comes back
play out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Wieditz, thank you. We'll see what happens tomorrow at Ottawa City Hall. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Take care.
Thorben Wieditz is with FairBnb. Back after the news, we'll get an update from Delhi on COVID-19. This is the Rob Snow Show on City News.
One for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
This is Tuesday, the 27th of April. Good morning, I'm Jason White. Right now in Ottawa, 9 degrees under a mostly cloudy sky. It's also 9 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news this hour. The province says people who live in their identified hotspots, 45 and older, can start booking appointments for their COVID-19 vaccines, including Ottawa postal codes K1V, K1T, and K2V. However, these provincial designations have caused confusion in the past. City News has asked Ottawa Public Health if this latest announcement applies to their high-risk areas identified by them. No answer so far. Lower numbers of new COVID-19 cases today. 3,265 new cases in Ontario. Ottawa has 150. Leeds, Grenville, Lanark counties, 2 new cases today. 3 are in the Eastern Ontario Health Unit. Renfrew County has 4. 29 more Ontarians have died of the virus. Technical issues affecting both the Coventry Road and Brewer Arena COVID-19 assessment center booking systems. Problems started last week. Ottawa Public Health says it looks like it relates to residents who did not have medical records numbers associated with those hospitals. If you really can't make it work, you tried updating your browser, it's just not happening. They say you can call or email the site for an appointment. A Smiths Falls teen's rugby dreams are taking her all the way to Harvard. Chloe Headland is a grade 12 student at Smiths Falls District Collegiate Institute. She's set to join the Harvard University women's rugby team this September. Headland started playing rugby in 2016 when she moved to Smiths Falls from the UK. City News Time 11:32. I'm Jason White. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The world is changing.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
India reported more than 300,000 new confirmed COVID-19 cases for the 6th day in a row today. The country continues to battle a brutal wave of virus illnesses. It's overwhelming the country's healthcare system. And we're joined right now by Pankaj Anand, Director of Programming and Advocacy with Oxfam India in New Delhi. Hello.
Hi.
It's very nice to hear from you, Mr. Anand. What is the situation there right now? Can you describe it for our listeners?
Rob, the situation here is very, very grim. On Sunday, we recorded 355,000 cases and 3,000 deaths. And these numbers are steady for the last 6-7 days, and the fear is that these numbers can be called as undercounted numbers. I just want to give you a little bit of perspective. In 1 week, which ended on Sunday, India has seen 2.2 million cases, highest reported by any country since the beginning of pandemic within a 7-day period. In the last 7 days, we have seen more than 16,000 deaths. No other country has so far seen over 10,000 deaths in any continuous 7-day stretch. This is the magnitude of the strife that India is going through. We have seen a steady surge in the number of cases from mid-February, but it has risen exponentially in April, Rob. And there is no part of India which is not affected. You may say that Maharashtra and New Delhi are worst affected, but there are several other parts of India which are very, very badly affected.
And what are the medical experts or the scientists saying about this? Because India seemed, as much as any country does, Mr. Anand, seemed to be doing okay at battling against COVID-19 until very recently. So what are the medical experts saying led to this terrible disaster?
It's a very good question, Rob. The infection has spread through asymptomatic persons. Experts are saying that nearly 80 to 85% people are asymptomatic, the largest carriers of the virus. A combination of large asymptomatic population and the presence of more infectious mutant variants is actually the cause. But these are not the only reasons. There are additional reasons. Marking of containment zones less strictly, because we declared the war against COVID over quite early, and that has actually spelled the doom.
I see. So were there actually a relaxing of restrictions, Mr. Anand, the lifting of restrictions, reopening efforts underway, these sorts of things?
Yes.
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 Okay.
We let the guard down.
Let your guard down. Okay. Very interesting. Okay. What is the situation like with oxygen? What sort of update can you provide for us on that front? We hear it's a crisis.
Yes, it's a huge crisis of mammoth proportions. If I can say that the whole of India is actually gasping for breath in government hospitals, private hospitals, and makeshift hospitals, it would not be an overstatement. There is a huge shortage of liquid oxygen in India. The problem is that 54% hospitals are requiring supplemental oxygen during treatment, and which is a huge increase from the last year's first wave, because the symptoms of shortness of breath, etc., is actually requiring oxygen to be administered. So actually the doctors are saying, the experts are saying that oxygen is also one of the important treatments that people are requiring.
What is this doing to the overall state of the healthcare system?
The overall healthcare system is actually bursting at its seams, and I just want to add a little bit. COVID has completely caught India's weak health infrastructure system flat-footed once again. The reason is also that we have had perennial underfunding of healthcare, leading to a lack of health preparedness, lack of health facilities, and you can understand this from the fact that India spends just 1.2% of the GDP, which is abysmally low. The experts have been warning for a very, very long time that this is abysmally low because the expenditure on health as a percentage of the GDP should be not less than 3%. That actually explains the weakness in the system.
So now, given the state of this virus and record-breaking daily case counts and the death toll increasing in India, are there once again curfews in effect or travel restrictions? Have lockdowns? Have those sorts of restrictions been imposed?
Yes.
Yes.
So the lockdowns have come back again. There are weekly lockdowns. There are sometimes lockdowns for a stretch of 7 days, sometimes for 14 days, depending on the rate of infection in particular states. And you can understand that it is going to have a cascading impact on the overall health of the economy as well.
Okay. Here in Canada, we're talking a lot about things like vaccine equity and how the virus does not hit all segments of the population equally, for example. I'm wondering how that manifests itself in a country as vast and diverse as India, sir.
So vaccine equity is also being hotly debated in India. The advocates for universal immunization are saying that vaccine is a public good for the bottom 20% of our population, because the income inequality and wealth inequality in India is so deep that if you are going to sell the vaccines for a price which could be $5.50, it is not going to work. Vaccine is a public good, and therefore there should be only one price, one nation, one price, and that price should be zero. And that means that government buys vaccine, and provides it to all citizens for absolutely zero price. At the moment, the government of India is actually procuring vaccine at the rate of roughly around $2. Now we have a differential pricing system. The state governments will have to procure vaccine at around $5.50 or thereabout. And same will also happen with private hospitals, which is going to make the goal of universal immunization very difficult. So I am re-emphasizing that that vaccine is a public good. The position of a large number of experts is that people should not be charged for vaccines.
Are they charged for vaccines now?
So,
if I'm in India, do I have to pay out of pocket to access a vaccine?
No, you do not have to pay if you're getting vaccinated in a government hospital. But if you go to a private hospital, you will have to pay close to $2.50
Okay, that's interesting.
Or thereabout, yes.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you for pointing that out. Pankaj Anand is our guest, Director of Programming and Advocacy with Oxfam India, joining us from New Delhi, where, again, another terrible day of case counts and death as the third wave ravages that country. When our vaccine program was faltering here in Canada, a group called the Serum Institute sent 2 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine from India to Canada. It is India's time in need now. What does India need right now? Everything?
So basically, India needs hospital supplies, medical equipment. I can name some, but it would not be an exhaustive list. Ventilators, PPE kits, patient monitor systems, and the list can be long. But these are basically definite things that I can say India needs. India also needs oxygen. It may not come from Canada, or it may come from Canada. I don't know whether Canada is a large producer of liquid oxygen, but India does need all of these things at the moment.
And what kind of organization efforts have you heard about in terms of foreign aid or foreign assistance for India? Is there an effort underway, Mr. Anand?
Yes. So the government of India has reached out to a lot of foreign governments, US, UK, France, I can name a few. But there are many governments who are chipping in, offering assistance and aid. I can talk about Canada. Canada has reached out to India to alleviate the crisis in any which way possible. And I recall that the Canada's Minister of Public Services and Procurement, if I am not mistaken, Honorable Anita Anand, she offered to assist India with the PPE kits, ventilators, and other urgent medical supplies.
Okay.
So they are in touch with Indian government. I have read a press report which says that the Canada's High Commissioner to India has also discussed a range of options to provide support to India. I also do know that Global Affairs Canada, which is Canada's foreign ministry, has said that we are completely united with our friend and partner, India, and we stand ready to assist India.
Mr. Anand, stay well. Thank you so much for the update.
Thank you so much.
We're wishing everybody the best there. It's a terrible time.
You.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rob. I just want to say that we are looking forward to Canadians chipping in with support in whichever way they can. We have to save precious lives in India.
Thank you again, Mr. Anand. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rob.
Pankaj Anand, Director, Programming and Advocacy, Oxfam, India, in New Delhi. Be right back. Rob Snow Show, City News.
It's such a beautiful field because it's all natural. I'm able to talk to a lot of people who are going through different journeys of health where they really don't know where to start, where to begin. And I'm happy and grateful to have all this knowledge where I can actually help them and guide them. So, of course, medications have a great place in our system, but even so do natural therapies, which have been around for centuries and centuries. Like, old time, ancient times, everything, herbs grew, everything was done with nature, all healing was done with nature. So I'm totally in love with all the elements with nature. In our beautiful village of Manatik, the Manatik Natural Market, you can find tremendous different things. So we have herbs, we have vitamins, we have natural body care, we do infrared sauna therapy, nutrition counseling, acupuncture, Bowen therapy, energy healing. So we're like a wellness hub along with being a full health food store. We are 1 year into pandemic since it started last year in March. It was a shock. Usually I see things coming, and I definitely did not see that coming. Golden Root is a product that I created 4 years ago, actually for my kids, just for immune system, overall health. And it just took off with certain friends of mine who had cancer or some severe issues, and they started finding that it was really helping them from different tests they had done with their doctor. And I knew I had something really special. So then I went through the proper procedure of being able to sell it. So it's actually, I'm not allowed to make it anymore in my house 4 years ago, and it is made in a Health Canada approved lab, and then it comes to me. And what Golden Root is a formulation of turmeric, ginger, lavender, oregano, and black pepper, all food grade, which is the most bioavailable turmeric in the market right now for pain, inflammation, digestion, immune system, concussion, liver health, and brain health. So, and it tastes like salad dressing. We do a lot of in-house, so we make our in-house concoctions of teas. You can come here, tell us what your health issues are, and we can blend it right there. And there's some that are already prepared beforehand for sleeping, for anxiety, for different things. And in that bar, we basically make cold brew teas and cold brew nitrogen coffee. And again, it's all local. Everything we do is local, and as many herbs we can find locally as well. If a client can't come out, we'll go out of our way to deliver it. And you're getting that personal touch when you come in. If you have an issue, we will listen and help you. We're very, very active in the community, so we would like the same thing back for the community to come to.
.101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
The Prime Minister speaking now, Justin Trudeau, holding a media availability.
These doses are key to beating not only the third wave, but the whole pandemic. This week, we'll get almost 2 million doses delivered to Canada. This includes our first shipment of the Janssen vaccine from Johnson & Johnson. Looking ahead, Pfizer alone will deliver 2 million doses a week starting next week, and we'll continue to work hard with manufacturers to deliver a stable and growing supply of doses to provinces and territories as they plan vaccination clinics. When it's your turn, make sure you book an appointment to get your shot. Sophie and I got our first doses of AstraZeneca on Friday. We're feeling great, we're feeling more protected, and we're also feeling like we're part of the solution going forward. I want to take a moment to do something I don't often do from this stage. I regularly are talking about our seniors and our young people. I want to take a moment to talk about my generation. Over the past number of days, we've seen vaccines made available to people 40 years old and up, and that means Generation X has stepped up and stepped out to get vaccinated. And I want to thank everyone who's been stepping forward and signing up and enthusiastically moving forward. Keep it up. Because of the high uptake, because of everything everyone's doing to get more doses into Canada and into arms, we're now second in the G20 in terms of vaccination doses, and we're going to continue. So thank you to everyone for doing their part. D'un bout à l'autre du pays, les infirmières,
From
les
coast
médecins,
to
les
coast to
pharmaciens et
coast,
le personnel
nurses,
paramédical
doctors, pharmacists,
travaillent
and
jour et
paramedics
nuit
are
pour
working day
veiller à
and
ce que le
night
plus
to
grand nombre
ensure
de
that the
gens possible
largest
se
number of
fassent
people
vacciner
possible
le plus
is
rapidement
vaccinated
possible.
as quickly
À
as
tous ceux qui
possible.
contribuent aux
To
efforts de
everyone who is
vaccination,
helping with the vaccination
vous
effort,
faites un travail
thank you. You're
incroyable.
doing
On
incredible
travaille sans
work.
relâche
We're
pour vous
working
fournir autant
non-stop
de
to
vaccins que
provide
possible
you with
le
as
plus
many
rapidement
vaccines as
possible.
possible.
Si on regarde le taux
If we look at
d'administration des vaccins, c'est-à-dire le nombre de doses administrées
vaccine
par jour
administration
par rapport
rate,
à la
that is the number
population,
of daily
le Canada
doses
se classe
administered to the
régulièrement
population.
au deuxième rang
Canada
du pays
regularly
du
places
G20.
second among G20 countries.
Notre objectif est d'assurer
Our goal
votre
is to ensure
protection
your
et celle de
protection
votre famille
and the
et d'en
protection of
finir
your
avec la
family,
pandémie le
and
plus
to
rapidement
finish this
possible.
pandemic as
La
quickly
lutte
as
contre la
possible.
pandémie est notre
The
priorité
fight
absolue.
against the
Et
pandemic
pour
is
arriver
our
à vaincre ce
absolute
virus,
priority.
il faudra
To beat this
l'éliminer
virus,
partout.
we need to
We've all
eliminate
seen the
it everywhere.
heartbreaking news from hospitals in India that are unable to keep up with the number of patients. Earlier today, Minister Garneau spoke with his Indian counterpart about how Canada can best help, including through the donation of extra medical supplies. We're also ready to provide $10 million through the Canadian Red Cross to the Indian Red Cross. This will support everything from ambulance services to buying more PPE locally. If you want to donate to the emergency efforts on the ground, go to redcross.ca. I know many Canadians are also concerned about rising cases in Pakistan. Minister Garneau will be speaking to his counterpart from Pakistan later today about the situation and what we can do to help. As a world, we are in this fight together. On espère qu'on est à la dernière phase de cette pandémie. C'est pour ça qu'on doit tenir bon et se protéger les uns les autres
That's
un
why
peu
we
plus
need to
longtemps.
hang in there and
Chaque
protect
fois
each
qu'on
other for a
garde nos
little while
distances
longer.
et qu'on porte un
Every
masque,
time
on se
that
rapproche
we
des jours meilleurs
physically
qui nous
distance,
attendent.
wear a
Quand on
mask,
pourra manger entre
and wear a
amis sur une
mask,
terrasse ou
we're one step
organiser un
closer
grand
to better
barbecue
days
familial
when
dans la
we'll be
cour
able to
arrière.
throw a backyard
Et
barbecue
pendant
for
qu'on
the whole
continue nos
family.
efforts,
And
on
while
doit
we
veiller
continue
à ce
our
que les gens
efforts,
puissent non
we need
seulement
to make sure
traverser cette
that
tempête,
people can not only
aussi
get through
revenir
the storm,
en force.
but come back stronger.
As we face a she-cession, a recession that disproportionately affects women, we cannot allow anyone to get left behind. That's why, a week ago, we introduced our progressive feminist plan for recovery. So what does that mean for people's lives? Well, for women entrepreneurs, it means almost $147 million to help with financing, mentorship, and training. This is about investing in the kind of entrepreneurs Minister Murray will sit down with today from BC, and the Deputy Prime Minister will speak to from the 51 in Alberta. I know Minister Monsef will also be speaking with women-owned businesses from Toronto about what they need to thrive too. Women-led small businesses strengthen communities and are the backbone of our economy. For mothers, this plan means making sure you have good, affordable childcare to balance work and kids. And I know this will come up when Minister Gould speaks to women business owners from Windsor about our plan to reach $10 a day daycare across the country in the next 5 years. Pour toutes les femmes, dans toutes les régions du pays, il faut adopter un plan féministe et progressiste pour l'avenir qui vise à assurer la sécurité de tous. C'est pourquoi on va de l'avant avec le tout premier plan d'action national pour mettre fin à la violence fondée sur le sexe. Plus tôt aujourd'hui, la ministre Bibeau ainsi que les députés Brière et Bessette ont rencontré différents groupes du canton de l'Est pour discuter de notre plan et des manières d'assurer la sécurité de tout le monde. La dernière année a été très difficile. Que vous soyez parents, propriétaires d'une petite entreprise, étudiants ou personnes âgées. Mais de meilleurs jours nous attendent.
But better
Et grâce
days
à notre
are
plan,
still to
on
come.
va créer de bons
And thanks
emplois
to
pour
our
la classe
plan,
moyenne,
we're going to create
rebâtir
good
une
jobs for the
économie
middle
propre
class,
et
build
résiliente,
back a clean,
bâtir un
resilient
Canada
economy,
plus juste.
and make a fairer Canada for everyone.
Merci.
Thank
Je suis
you.
maintenant heureux de passer
And
la
I'll
parole
now
au
pass the
ministre
floor
Blair.
to Minister Blair. Bill, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, and good morning, everyone. As the Prime Minister mentioned, in response to a request for assistance received from the province of Ontario, we've been working with the Canadian Armed Forces, the Canadian Red Cross, and medical personnel from Newfoundland and Labrador in order to help fight COVID-19 in Ontario. We have today identified 62 Health Human Resources from federal departments across the country who have been identified as potential volunteers to be deployed to Ontario. The Canadian Armed Forces is also deploying 9 ICU nurses and up to 3 multi-purpose medical assistance teams. In addition, the Canadian Red Cross is prepared to deploy an initial group of 13 nurses with ICU and emergency response experience, and they are prepared to deploy up to 30 additional resources. And finally, as the Prime Minister mentioned, today, 6 nurses and 3 physicians from Newfoundland have begun to travel to Ontario in order to provide much-needed help, and that will increase up to 14 nurses in the coming weeks. And at the same time, we are working with the province of Nova Scotia to help them fight back rising numbers of COVID cases. And we have approved today an RFA, a request for assistance from the province of Nova Scotia. And we will be deploying 60 Canadian Armed Forces members to testing centers in that province. Over the past year, there have been 70 requests for assistance received from the provinces and territories, including 22 from the province of Ontario. In every instance, we have worked with our provincial and territorial partners, and we have marshaled our resources to help out. And for example, we have provided resources to help our seniors in long-term care homes. We have provided assistance to support temporary foreign workers in safe isolation sites and who come into this country to help Canadian farmers. We have been assisted in responding to hotspots with mobile health units, and we have been working in remote communities and Indigenous communities across the country to boost capacity in those communities. We will continue to work with the Canadian Armed Forces, the Canadian Red Cross, and our partners in every province and territory to continue this fight. And we will work collaboratively with our provincial and territorial partners. And as we do this important work, I want to urge all Canadians, follow the public health guidelines, wear your mask, and get your vaccine as soon as
Bill Blair. He's the public safety minister outlining some...
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.